Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing live show number 212. If you've noticed that there is a new face sitting to my right, rather than the typical montage of co-hosts that we have, with me is Jared Jones with Justo, a special guest, co-host, and thank you very much for joining us today. And now, Mr. Robert St. Ange from Philips is going to be joining us also as a co-host. I know that Kevin, your CEO, your COO, he is CEO. He's CEO. He's in the chat room. So, ironically, we gave you the direct invitation. Gave your CEO the leftovers to the other side, saying, "Yeah, join us when you can," kind of thing. Okay, so there, I think his hand's raised on the other side. So we'll go over and do that and see if he can join us now on the other side. Mr. Robert Cole, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Robert, meet Jared. Jared, meet Robert. I
Hi,
think Mr.
Jared.
Ed will be there in just a couple of moments. Jared and Kevin are kind enough to join us today to discuss their. Well, I wouldn't say it's new. How long have you guys been running Justo?
It's the idea of it started a little bit over a year. We've been basically full-time going on it basically since the start of this summer. So it is relatively new, but we've made some pretty fast progress. So.
Excellent.
Well,
Excellent.
just one note for me. If I suddenly drop off, I'm trying to work with American Airlines on my airline tickets to West Palm Beach next Tuesday.
As if you're not going to. Oh, okay. Hey, Mr. Ed.
Hey, how's it going? Robert, you don't want to go to West Palm Beach?
Well,
you and Jim Cantori can hang out?
Exactly. Actually, the interesting part is I booked a little place through Booking.com, and these guys have been extraordinarily communicative. I mean, they, proactive. Hey, it looks like we may have an evacuation of the island. Are you still if there are, happy to cancel, no fees or anything like that, just let us know. They followed up with a phone call, which is great. I mean, that's exactly what you want to do. They want to know what's going on. So
actually, the OTAs are really, really helpful during statewide emergencies. Previous hurricanes, both Expedia and Booking.com have been very heavily involved all the way to the state government level in helping move people around and find where to put people who are being evacuated. And you've seen that, Lauren. I'm sure.
Yeah. No, Kevin, just going back to our Kevin looked like he came into the room and left the room. He might be hitting that.
He saw Lauren. He saw you, Ed, and I.
He's like, Jared, you're on, buddy.
Understandable reaction, and very understandable reaction. So,
Kevin, I think he's hitting a technical bump. Kevin, if you want to reach out to me via email, I'll keep an eye on the email thing if I can see if they can technically diagnose what we're doing. It might be that plugin. Jared, did you have to do that plugin on your Chrome?
Yeah, I did, but it wouldn't let me do that until right before it let me join the room. So I couldn't do it prior.
And you end up having to restart your computer sometimes to get
Chrome. Oh, yeah, that's right.
To fully take it.
It's getting better. Go. Now at least we have a shadowy face, a lurking shadowy
witness face. Protection program. Yeah. Meet our CEO.
Hey, Kevin. We can't hear you yet. Is the microphone button on the? Nope, microphone on the top. Second button from the left on the top.
Yep. All right, there you go.
There we are. See, we're killing time. We didn't want to, Jared to be left alone. So we thought we'd kill a little time to talk about the travel plans of Florida for the next few days. Since just to give you some perspective, I'm in Southwest Florida. Ed is in Central Florida. Robert is safely cocooned in Irving, Texas. And Robert was to travel to Florida for a conference that we're both attending over exactly ground zero of the hurricane that's going to hit Dorian.
You know better than to say that it's definitely going to be ground zero.
Oh gosh,
we know it could hit Tampa.
Yeah, it can go anywhere. Yeah. It can go anywhere. But anyway, with that all said, now that we have you both on board, welcome. Thank you very much for making it. We, as I promised you, we give you the first half hour guaranteed your time to shine. Tell us everything and anything we need to know about Justo, origins, beginnings, plans, process, all that kind of fun stuff. We're all ears, and then we'll try to ask questions.
One very, very important administrative note. If you do wind up having to leave, and if Lauren makes you room administrators, there will be Oh, you aren't? Okay. There will be a red button that you don't push.
Don't hit the red button. Just close the browser. If you have to leave, just close the browser. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, that's a good housekeeping note. Don't hit the red button. All right. Gotcha. So with that in mind, gentlemen, the floor is yours, please.
Great. Well, yeah, obviously on
Yeah.
behalf of me and Jared, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys allowing us to come speak with you. Obviously we talked yesterday a little bit, Lauren, and like you said, we just don't want to make this anything like a sales pitch. We just want to have a friendly conversation with some insiders in the industry. I'd love to see some people in the chat too. So definitely look forward to that. But a little bit of background about ourselves, obviously, based on our live feed, you might be assuming we're pretty young, which is true. So came in pretty randomly. We had a really unique outsider's perspective on everything. So one day, when I was in my dorm, I go to University of Michigan, and I happened to be talking with my dad, who's a really frequent traveler, and he basically was, giving me the typical rants of booking hotel rooms and that whole deal. And he was just mumbling on, and I was just getting very bored. And while I was zoning out and barely listening to him, I kind of realized that, one thing that my dad's always told me from a really early age is that any good business is formed around a problem. So I clearly saw my dad was having this problem when he was traveling. So while I was just in my dorm, I started digging into the industry as a whole, started listening and going to podcasts such as this one and researching online about what's going on in the industry. And what I found really shocks me, because I found so that's kind of how we stumbled upon the industry. Jared was the first person I ever got on board with me. And from there, we've kind of just been kicking off with a lot of really unique things that I love to talk about.
Outstanding. Please go right ahead. Like I said,
yeah,
we're all ears for this right now.
Yeah.
To me, it's
Perfect.
completely new. I mean, I'm only seeing it from the outside view into your website and so forth. So I'm here to learn what you guys are doing, to understand and ask from that perspective. So please.
Great. Yeah. So what we do is basically we're going to be an online travel agency. And I use that term knowing that there's a lot of backlash against OTAs in the industry right now, but we want to be seen as very much on the forefront of change in the OTA world. So we don't want to be like the other big guys that hotels really don't like. Before I even had any code written or anything even down on a business plan, what I did was I called a lot of hotels, ranging from boutique and basically just said, what problems are you having? And if you yourself could make the solution, what would you do differently? I got all that data from them. I, kind of just put into a doc. I analyzed it and said, all right, so this is what they're saying. This is the problems they're having. And, 99% of the problems overlapped, fortunately enough. So I said, all right, well, if these are the problems, what are some of the solutions? So obviously, one of the largest problems that we found was commission. So with our online travel agency, we have kind of two unique distribution channels in one. So what we do is we say we're not going to charge any commission, and that way the hotels can actually have a lot more price flexibility and give exclusive rates to our members. So you can kind of think of our service almost as Netflix for the frequent traveler. And, where Netflix might be really amazing for the frequent entertainment viewer, we kind of work like that for any frequent traveler. So that's our subscription program. We charge a very low $5.99 month fee. And this is a cancel anytime monthly fee. But then, that's just one of the problems that we solve is the whole commission thing. There's another problem with, for example, wholesalers. Obviously, that's a big issue right now. So we never source our inventory from them. We go directly to hotels. We have, who unfortunately isn't on this call, but we have another colleague named Cale Johnson. He's our director of hotel relations. He's one of the guys that will go and actually reach out to these hotels and them what we do differently, and then hopefully sign them up. So that's another route. We don't do anything with wholesalers at all. One of the other things that's really important for us is the whole OTA ranking system, because we don't have one at all, actually. So we built the entire site on these really robust neural networks. So I'll use the Netflix analogy again, if any of you guys use Netflix or Hulu often. So, with us, you basically, the more you use the platform, the better it is for you. So if you like boutiques that are in the $500 to $600 a night range, that's great. That's what we'll show you first. If you are more of an economy class person that might like a chain, maybe even by an airport, that's what we're going to show you first. So we kind of have it a win-win because, I thought of it as if I search on a different OTA and I look up hotels in Miami, and had the exact same results, it doesn't make sense for it to do that. And also it kind of hurts the hotel because obviously they have to really compete for this ranking. So with us, we kind of take that away and say, the only thing we're going to do is personalize all the search results by who you are as a unique traveler. So that's just a little bit about us. I'd definitely love to answer any questions just based on that. And I can take a deeper dive too.
Mr. Robert, I'll let you go first.
They don't want to talk to me. So I've listened
Yes,
to
they do.
500
Don't make them talk to the grandpa.
500
Robert's the old one in our
500
group for this, so we always go and pick on him about his drinking habits.
I get very grouchy.
Go ahead, Robert.
So,
go ahead, Ed. I mean, I've got a ton of questions.
Okay,
go ahead.
So guys, what's the plan at launch for number of properties that you'll be offering?
That's a great question. So, less than 1,000 properties because we really were kind of learning, who do we even talk to at hotels? Do we talk to GMs? Do we talk to revenue managers? Who do we talk to? So we really were struggling there, but now we're actually fortunate enough to have over 10,000 properties now, all pre-launch. We're actually finishing our connectivity project. So we're finalizing a connection with DerbySoft, Synexus, SHR, all those guys. And then we have about 2 months left of that project. And then in that 2 months, our goal is to get around 20 to 25,000 properties.
Now, are you getting the hotels to give you qualified or unqualified rates?
Those are, I believe they're qualified.
Okay. Yeah, because it's a membership. So
yeah, exactly. So what we say to the hotels is basically, we say to them, for an unsubscribed user, so you can think any other OTA, we have bar rates, and that's what we do, how the OTA world works. And then, or you can subscribe for that low monthly fee where you actually do get a significant deal, but we don't charge any commission to the hotel. And then in return, the traveler pays that low monthly fee.
Okay. So what's your customer acquisition plan? How are you going to get travelers to know who you are?
Sure. So we're actually working with a great agency now out of Cleveland. The name's Vivid Front. They basically they have a really big focus on digital social media type advertising. So we know that, being a startup, we're not going to be able to compete in the SEO world with the likes of Expedia or Priceline because, I wish I had $1 billion to spend, but we just don't.
Well, you need
so we can't really compete there. We're not going to be trying to show up. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's about 5 a year.
Yeah, it's a 5 a year.
So we're not even going to touch that realm because it doesn't make sense to what just happened. So what we're really going to do is kind of be really strategic about it. So we're going to go after, different avenues and showing why we're different, with, social media influencers, with targeting ads to people that maybe that have been in airports recently and different things like that we don't have to rely on paid media for. But also what we really want to do is have this unique, exclusive community type feel for the first few months of launch. So what we're going to do there when we initially launch the platform in about 2 months from now, we're going to have a really amazing referral system. So launch a person that stumbles upon it, you're going to have an access code, which definitely, by the way, we will get all of you guys access codes, of course. So you click this link, it'll say, great, you got asked to join the platform, go enjoy it. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe. And then you having an access link, which means you can have 5 access links to send to friends, family, whoever you might want to send to. If you subscribe, you get 10 access links. and then anybody that signs up through your access links, you both get $10. Mm-hmm. So that way we kind of are social engineering a way to really spread word of mouth from an early on, because we think that word of mouth is going to be our biggest play. You know, if you're staying at XYZ hotel and your buddy is also, and you can say, hey, I got this crazy rate on this new website that I found. That's just going to be the best way, because we know that the hotel and travel world as a whole is pretty elastic. You know, if you obviously we're going to have much better deals than $1 off, but you know, that's just kind of how we want to play it.
Mm-hmm. Just to make sure the playing field, I don't know if Ed's listening and just giving us a glimpse of his pretty face as he turns his camera on and off, but just to get, I don't know why Ed's asking these type of questions, is this is his second company. He opened up Easy Yield, and so it's kind of fun to see you all talk about what you're doing, knowing Ed is the youngest in our group, and when it comes to regular co-host, and he went through this process. He's in his second cycle now, having been now with Flip2, so he is. He's a wealth of information, and I'm sure you guys are doing all the right things. Yeah, but when it comes to startups, businesses, creations, virility, expansion, milestones of efforts and so forth, he's a great resource for it. So I can see why he's asking questions directed in that point of view. It's like he knows the struggles that you guys are going through about, okay, we have this great idea that we want to work with. How do we get to a scale that it actually makes something? He's on his second run, so he's that's why he's putting those questions. While we're waiting for Mr. Ed to bring back the beautiful face, Mr. Robert, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like you're working mostly with the platform. So you're connecting with Derbysoft, things like that. So you're not necessarily going property by property to get these 10,000. Like you're getting more kind of a network connection, I guess would be, so and then going and probing each of their participating brands. Or
so how that works is basically we decided on Derbysoft because of the amount of connections that they already have. So Derbysoft is already connected with a whole lot of other CRSs, PMSs, XYZ. That's why we decided on them. But how it works is basically we need to have a contract in place with the hotel to actually be connected. So Derbysoft can't just give us a lot of properties. We have to go to the property first and then say, hey, Derbysoft, we got this person on getting them on the actual platform.
So with that being said, then what's making up the 10,000? It's obviously one or two big brands.
So we do have flagship chains that have come on board. We're looking for to definitely get some more. We have some really great meetings set up, but also we're really proud of our boutique acquisition. Obviously, the boutique acquisition goes a lot slower because you might get 3, 4, 5 deals in a week, but those 3, 4, 5 deals only have maybe 100 total hotels. Right. So we have we're really proud of our array of boutiques. But the bulk definitely comes from our chains.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
so let me ask you the big scary question.
Sure.
And not because I'm trying to give you a hard time. It's just I'm interested to see what you thought of. So the biggest challenge with launching a new consumer-facing travel provider is there is a threshold where once you prove that this is something consumers want, you're at great risk of Expedia or Booking.com making a slight adjustment to their business model and stepping right into your space. Right. What makes you think, or what do you, don't share anything that's like super secret, obviously, because the 12 people who watch this show may find it interesting.
And 5 of them are here.
Right. So what are you thinking? Like, so how do you deal with Expedia going, oh, okay, so people will pay a membership for special member rates? Great. We already have our 90,000, inventory, and we already have access to be able to take qualified rates. So yeah, let's do a test, and their test potentially will end up being 70,000 consumers in the first try. Mm-hmm. So how do you then combat that?
Yeah, no, that's a very, very, very good question. So the route that we're kind of going there is that we want to really set up. So just to be completely honest, the hardest getting them over is that we are an OTA in the first place. The fact that we call them, say we're an OTA, we almost can hear them, holding the phone or the hook just hang up on us. But just having a good relationship with them, saying this is what we're doing from day one, this is why we're different, this is why you should go with us and give us these exclusive rates is big. But of course, Expedia, the clout that they have is pretty enormous. But that's why we want to just launch, just get this right in front of people so we can hit the market where nothing really exists like this, where it's a subscription platform. We want to only win customers over by having better deals. We think that's a huge part of our business model. But the UI and the UX that we've built is really incredible. I might be a little biased here, of course, but I think when you go on most OTA sites, you kind of get harassed with a lot of different data and ads and pop-ups, and it's just not the greatest experience. I've never seen anybody besides there's actually a smaller OTA that has decent UI, but for the most part, it's kind of cumbersome. And also that's because, they have this big priority on making people book rooms because obviously they make a commission. So, for example, I booked on an OTA that we all know, but I won't name. And I booked on them, and in 6 days, I received 12 emails from them. It's just not stuff that you want. We don't do any of that type of thing. We really want to be the most consumer friendly, kind of like, Netflix or almost Uber, but for
so don't go public then.
Don't use.
There's a lot of.
I would recommend not
because
using the Uber example right now.
Any of the OTAs, if you look at their focus prior to going public, they were exactly what you just said. And what destroys their allegiance to either the traveler or the industry is going public and having to sustain growth. So if you want to stay true to what you're saying you want to do, get rid of any thoughts of ever going public, and you will be able to do that. But if you are at all thinking of going public, just understand your vision. Right. Be careful who you take money from, because they're all going to tell you that it's nice you want to do this, but we want this much return and we need this much growth. So you're going to do a pop under this week and you're going to send 10 emails. And a perfect example of that,
or your next round. Yeah, we'll get the link.
Yeah. So TripAdvisor is a perfect example. TripAdvisor started with that type of, we really want to make a difference here. We want to bring transparency to, what's out there. And now TripAdvisor is probably one of the worst players in the industry. They do not serve travelers whatsoever, and they are horrible to the hotel industry. And it's because they are
fighting for survival because and the capital markets are kicking the shit out of them, right? Pretty much because they aren't getting enough margins and they aren't penetrating things, even though they have this massive user base, right? So it's a tough balancing act. Lauren, what were you gonna?
Yeah, so I was going to say, so Kevin, and just do you feel like you have an age grouping for this? Because as you're talking about this, I mean, obviously, you guys are young and you're right in the middle of this kind of thing. And are you feel like you're catering to more of how you see yourself as future consumers as well? That I don't want the clutter, I don't want the mess, I don't want this reminders. I'll use you when I need you. I'll pay for that accessory. I want to get the good deals. I don't want to have to deal with all the BS about this. Sign me up and tell me what I need to, show me more of what I'm interested in because you've seen me do it enough times. Is that how you're seeing yourselves, that you're going to kind of follow this purchasing group of people that do this?
Yeah, that is definitely one aspect is the more. So actually, I actually believe I'm the very, very tail end of the millennial age group. I think the millennials for the most part are actually older than me. I think 23 to 38 or something like that. We definitely want to cater to them because number one, they're the ones pushing the OTA initiative. They're the ones that want to book on OTAs versus direct booking because it's so easy. You see 30 plus hotels at your fingertips, number one. Number two, because exactly what you just said, we think that this is what consumers are wanting, this type of, not dealing with the BS and more getting the transparent. And they're actually, and also they're very, very used to, years ago. You can subscribe for cars. You can subscribe for just about everything. So that's definitely an area that we're looking at. Another is the B2B side. So we're basically going to go to small to mid to even large, if they happen to be in the right area, businesses, and say, hey, you can sign up all of your employees at, of course, a corporate discount, and we'll kind of act as your internal travel agency for you. So instead of getting a decent deal with a brand and all your travelers can stay at one brand, with us, we have pre-negotiated rates with all of our hotels. So any business could sign up and get these amazing rates for all of their travelers. And also, I'll be cautious of how much I say right now, but what we're doing is we're kind of building this interface for the B2B side, where everyone or the travel agency can basically log in at the get all their people are staying, what's the price is, they can expense it directly on there, and a whole lot of other tools for them to really just use us as their kind of OTA / travel agency software.
So, Jared, I mean, I'm having fun. I have friends, I call them eye candy because they're much better looking than I am, and always have them join my meetings and stuff so that people stare at them instead of me. So what did Kevin say? Robert, I bring Robert in all the time for that. So what did Kevin say to you when he said, hey, dude, I got this idea? Okay, and I'm thinking about this and this. What got you on board with this? You're saying, okay, I want to actually change my path and hitch to you and start doing this with you. What sold you on this whole thing?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I want to say that Justo wasn't even Justo back then. It was Half Cost Hotels. It was honestly a pretty different, same business model, same concept and everything. But I'd worked with Kevin before on a lot of different things, especially in the tech industry and stuff. And Kevin kind of pitched it to me the same way he pitched it to you guys right here, right now. And after working with him on a bunch of other things, it was really I kind of trusted him and believed in him. And then we set out and we did some things. And then eventually, I think the tipping point was we got to go to Red Roof Inn and pitch to their entire executive team. And that was back in the winter, and I was kind of like part-time, half and half on it. And then we went in there, and they absolutely loved the concept. And it was really like a proving ground for us there. And since then, we just took all their advice and everything and kind of brought everything to what it is right now.
Do you think you guys might look at that brands like Red Roof, as an example, might be looking at this as kind of a quasi-membership thing that they can support their membership ranks? I mean, remember, was it Red Lion? It wasn't it that went over and joined up with Expedia? Right. They use their program as membership and so forth. You guys are putting together kind of a membership relationship, and a clean one, where you're saying, hey, look, no clutter, no mess, no fuss. It's straight line benefit and opportunity. And these guys might be going saying, look, we can't construct that ourselves. We don't need to keep branding ourselves, but let's join a potentially larger membership relationship. Do you see that as a pathway for you guys too?
Absolutely. So yeah, that's a big thing that we say to hotels, is that we really want to be the hotel's OTA in a sense, because we know that there's this huge push for direct booking, and I have absolutely no problem with that. I think that's a big way for hotels to fight back against the hurtful OTAs, is this direct booking push. I think, at this point, it's 2019. I think everyone should have a really consumer. But, in a world where there's no OTAs, it's not a great user experience, because if I look up hotels in Miami, I'm going to go on 20 different sites to compare rooms and what hotel do I even want to stay at. And then the boutiques, for the most part, get hurt really bad there because they don't have great SEO. They don't have as great brand recognition and so on. So we go to them and say, we'll basically be acting as your member program or your way to distribute to a great array of travelers, kind of like the traditional OTA, but we don't hurt you by doing those few things that I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm. So, well, your road.
So let me give you a couple of history lessons, because you're young. You look like. How old are you, by the way?
23.
So I'm 21 and Jared's 20.
Perfect. It's about as old as I was when I started my first company in this space. First of all, your ignorance of how hard what you're trying to accomplish will take you far. I always say that had I known
He's speaking this from personal experience
that I know now, I would never have tried to do what I set out to do.
If Ed was
impossible. So
don't. It's kind of the bottom line.
Yeah. your
Are you
lack
saying you
of
want my dumb
knowledge
luck?
is actually really good, because that's where fresh perspective comes from, and it's also where you don't have to accept what is commonly accepted in this industry. So don't take that as any type of negative thing. Like, I firmly believe I'm where I am today because of how little I knew going into the problem I was solving. So let's talk about history, though, that you probably haven't felt a whole lot yet, but you will feel at some point, and you shouldn't let it take you by surprise. Every single OTA that's came up hotel friendly first.
Right.
Every single one of them, as soon as they hit scale, switched away from that model. So just saying that that's your point, you're going to need to do more than that with your hotels, because you are going to come across hotels that are going to say to you, great, Orbitz was really friendly. Travelocity was super friendly. Expedia was super friendly when they first started. And they all change as soon as they hit scale. So design something better than just the mission. Find a way to show that it's there, it's in the core, and you'll actually have less friction on your acquisition path, and you'll get hotels that will be more creative. You are eventually going to have to get into being better than Expedia at things that Expedia is very good at. And some of the things Expedia is very good at is packaging and getting really favorable pricing from hotels.
Not normally a friendly process in doing that either.
No, but there's actually there is a very friendly way to do it that really screws Expedia up. I did it myself I started my first job before I started my first company, was working at a small upstart OTA out of Orlando, and I screwed Expedia up constantly by developing ways of showing the consumer different forms of how you would display room and packaging. So technically, Expedia could not facilitate it. So I'll give you an example. When you go on websites today and you see like stay X nights, get Y nights free, or stay X nights, get a percentage off, I was the first one to do that. And that gave me huge headway over Expedia at the time, because they couldn't support it. So the hotels would just say, hey, if you can support the technology, we'll give you the same exact thing, but they're doing something completely different. So beat them where you can get, in some cases, you can get years before they can move. Make new types of product that the hotels can give you more interesting rate flexibility on, and they will do it. Hotels will just straight up do it, and you'll become their number one producer. I did that up against toe-to-toe against Expedia with a company that was only doing about $1 million a year in revenue off of their reservation. So tiny. So take your core values, which are the same exact core values that all of these OTAs initially went out with, and find a way to cement it so that hotels feel good that it's going to last you getting past needing them. And then beat the big boys by developing new ways for hotels to merchandise what they have to offer, and hotels will gladly give you a better deal because you will not be messing with their Expedia contract.
Right.
Yeah. My recommendation. I think you have.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I think you have some really interesting points where you've got to find the right equilibrium, because certainly with a subscription model, that's great. And I think the comparison to Netflix.
Don't do the movie thing. Don't do your
No,
movie.
I'm not. No,
because Robert, by the way, Robert loves the subscription model, because as soon as you give him a code, he's going to find the weird loopholes in your model that will allow him to exploit you.
And
then your worst nightmare.
And then he will exploit the crap out of it and brag about it to everyone he knows. We've watched him do it to any
If you're looking for cracks in anything, let Robert do it. He'll find it for you.
So the equilibrium point, though, I mean, Netflix was successful initially, kind of HBO, same way. I think HBO really started, is the subscription, you eliminate advertising, right? I'm paying to not be exposed to advertising, right? So, advertising kind of
absolutely
poor demographics tax these days, right? So I think that's a huge plus. The interesting thing in terms of the rates now, are you guys positioned where you can charge, or where the hotels can give you a higher net rate than Expedia? So you aren't sitting there beating, going, hey, we need basically most favored nations clause. You need to give us the same deal you give Expedia or Booking or anyone else. Because if you guys don't have the same profit requirement, right, or the same margin requirement, you can work it. And I've done a couple of startups myself, perhaps not to the same success as Mr. St. Ange there, but we did change the industry in certain ways. We did a dynamic packaging one, and basically we went to them and said, hey, we don't have the same margin requirements on this thing, so you don't have to give us that rate. You can actually charge a higher rate, which is great for the hotels. The better ADR, it helps everybody, right? Everybody loves that. But the price still comes out lower to the consumer because you aren't sitting there. Like Booking.com has 40% margin, something like that they run. If you don't have that, if you can do it with 20% margin, all of a sudden there's a bunch of consumer value that you can build, and then that supports the subscription. So you may be able to do that. Now, the huge caveat with that is that makes you much less attractive to investors, right? Because they want to see huge margins, and that's completely what they're drunk on.
Yeah, by the way, I mean, let's just be honest here. Is your path to do rounds of investment raising?
So what we did, we kind of had a unique thesis about investing, actually. So what we did was look for individuals around specifically the Cleveland area that we really, really value and respect and targeted as potential investors. And also part of this thesis was these all had to be people that weren't in the travel industry. So they had a fresh perspective like we did. Of course, these guys are all regular business travelers, but they didn't have, for example, an OTA company or a hotel company or something like that. Actually, I will say we've been approached by a few hotel companies about investments, and we kindly turned them down only because we wanted
destroy you.
Yep.
Yeah,
So if you're not going to do traditional VC funding and you're going to skip that stage through the type of funding you're going after to then get to middle market, you can build a really interesting business without having to sell out to what the spreadsheet pushers want. Just know it's totally worth doing. But all the fake people that, raise money as a profession and don't actually build quality companies are going to sit there and look at you like they don't understand.
Right.
But it's worth doing because in the end, you'll make more money than they do raising, $100 million and burning through it and adding no value.
Yeah,
You'll also be more trusted by your customer by not being owned by a venture capital firm.
Right.
Yeah, that's really important to us. It is. So I definitely, it's good to hear from your perspective that we're kind of on the right path there. And then also I wanted to go back to your point about us having this fresh, almost ignorant view on the industry, which you got this really amazing coalition of a board of advisors. So when when Jared brought up Red Roof, they were the first chain that we actually got the opportunity to pitch to. The CEO, Andrew Alexander, amazing guy. I have nothing but absolute praise for him. You can tell he's one of those guys that, runs his company really well, has a great culture there, but also is always looking for new cool ideas that he can get, first kind of dibs on. So when me and him were talking kind of after our pitch to them, he actually wanted to jump on our board of advisors. So after that, we kind of sparked this growth of we're going to get legitimate people that know this industry 10 million times better than we do, that we can go to for, hey, we have this cool, crazy, weird idea. What do you guys think? Get their feedback. That's a terrible idea. No, that's a great idea. Why don't we explore that a little bit more? So we can get their legitimate perspective. So that goes a long way. The board of advisors is built up of people like you. So that way it kind of prevents us from ever selling out or ending up really bashing hotels like most OTAs do.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, it's actually with the OTAs, it's a cycle. You only bash hotels when they have no choice but to work with you, and then when the tables
Right.
turn, you become very hotel friendly. It's
Yes.
the cycle of the OTA.
And we're really lucky to be in this. I definitely am one of those people that believes that a good business is always launched at the right time. And we definitely think we're going at the right time because, as you guys know, there's this huge kind of ongoing struggle or war between hotels and OTAs, especially right now. I would say for the most part, led by Marriott.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can really get in the industry right now and say, hey, you guys hate these guys so much. I understand. I hear where you're coming from. As a traveler, I don't like them either. But we're completely
Well, be careful because the reason Marriott,
also, the right.
The reason Marriott hates OTAs is because OTAs point to Marriott's hotel owners that Marriott's not the only place to get travelers from.
Right.
So understand, OTAs are threatening to
the
Marriott.
brands.
They are not threatening to an independent hotel. Actually, think about this. You've just started a business. So if I came up to you today and said, hey, listen, I don't want to get between you and the customers you're working on, but you know what? If you ever have a bad month, I will sell the rest of your capacity that you possibly can support as a business. I just want 20%.
Right.
Would
No
you
risk.
love to have
No
that
risk.
sitting in the background available while you're starting this business and worrying about paying the people that you're convincing to come away from other jobs? Of course you would. The whole war against the OTA is a war between the big brands and the OTAs, because quite honestly, there was a period in time when all the hotel owners and asset managers and all of that started asking the question of, well, then what am I paying Marriott all this money for if I'm getting all of this demand from these websites? Like, what do I need Marriott for? Because history lesson here, the brands all really dragged their feet on getting into online room selling because they didn't think, I forget which executive from which brand it was, but like they literally were saying things like, oh, the internet's never going to take off for selling rooms. So they're coming from behind in an attacking manner. But if you talk to a real hotelier who operates a real hotel, you will not hear them say they hate the OTAs. You will hear them say they are cautious in how they use them, which that's any channel. Like, don't go all in on Facebook. Facebook's going to screw you if you go all in on them. Don't go all in on Google. Google's going to screw you if you go all in on them. It's about balance, but it's not hatred. The hatred line is coming from Marriott, IHG, like all the ones that are threatened, because quite honestly, Expedia has a stronger consumer brand than these hotel brands do.
They sell more rooms.
Yeah,
a lot more.
So be careful when you follow brands.
And
brands will make you think that the OTAs is this nasty war. I mean, the bottom line is it's a war because they threaten the brand's relevancy in the sphere of how hotels work.
Well, there are two sides. That's the demand side of the battle. And then on the other side is the margin side, because the average hotel brand in the US, and there's some variance. I think Best Western's down like 4.5% or something like that. And like a Hilton Garden Inn pays, I think it's 14.9% of their rooms revenue to Hilton in the form of fees. Right. So, but the average is about 11.5%, something like that. So you take that 11.5%, a lot of these hotel owners, especially the big real estate investment trusts and folks like that, they got a management company. Well, that's going to be 3% of gross revenues right there. So let's just say it was, 11. Okay, we're at 14% right now. Then, you got a credit card fee. Let's add at least a couple points, to that. We're at 16. And then when the OTA comes in, you go, oh, how much do they want? Well, Marriott isn't paying 15%. Maybe they're in the 11% range. Some of these smaller independents are up closer to 20. All of a sudden, you're over a third of your gross revenue going, and the brands hate when I say this, to intermediaries, right? Because if you're the owner, it's a mouth to feed between the consumer and you, right? That's not a sustainable proposition. Right. And, and basically the OTAs continue to grow at a faster rate than the hotel brands.
Because they invest in the consumer.
Because they're investing.
Just like you're doing. You're building a better mousetrap that will attract people and will make them loyal to you because you've removed friction in their day. And you're doing that with far more care and focus than a hotel is.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, that's a big thing when hotels talk to us about, well, what about my direct booking channels? And I say, absolutely, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're a hotel company and we're a technology company. So we have our different strengths, we have our different weaknesses, but that's just kind of how it is.
And if you can get a higher rate tier, which I know is kind of counterintuitive from these hotels, but if you can find that balance of, not necessarily giving, or basically giving that discount that the hotel's offering and translating that directly into consumer value by you guys being kind of as efficient as possible, that's absolutely huge. The one complexity with that, and again, it may be very interesting for the hoteliers, is they don't like to introduce new rate plans, because if you're Marriott, you have to come in and then somebody corporately has to go to, oh, well, we got to go to the brand guys for the select service group, and we got to go talk to the Courtyard people, and we got to talk to Fairfield, we got to do this, we've got to update the things of saying here's who they are and here's how it's getting booked.
Got to build brand standards around it. Then we got to check with legal compliance and
how it's paid, all that stuff that has to.
So the answer is, don't go to Marriott with it.
Yeah.
Go to your boutique hotels. Value your boutique hotels.
But this is a really important point, because you guys are new to the industry. You would think, well, yeah, but guys, you're going to make more money. It's better for the hoteliers, right?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to the brand. The brand,
first of all,
there.
The brand is Marriott,
for themselves.
Hilton, Choice, Wyndham, IHG. They all have something in common. They're not hoteliers.
Right.
Their business is not hospitality. They are franchise systems. Their business is to sell franchises. And that's a big difference. And you're going to hear a lot of people forget to tell you that that's how it is now, because it's only up until recently that the two powerhouses that were hoteliers, Marriott and Hilton, they used to own a lot of really good hotels. They sold them all.
Yep. Own and manage, and all that's gone.
Yep. Yeah. They don't own any hotels anymore. So they're completely detached. They make their money one way and one way only: franchises. Yep. Franchises. So they're don't listen to them. Don't go to them for guidance, because quite honestly, it's where you will get the worst advice for actually building something good for the hotels.
Yeah.
Go to hoteliers.
Absolutely.
I'm going to side with Holly on something. Holly went over and said, "Oh, Ed, you're being mean."
I'm being nice to these guys. What are you talking about?
Holly doesn't know mean.
No, she doesn't know mean. Okay, so here's the thing. When I used to run hotels, I used to want to hire people that never worked in hotels, because they saw the product for what it was truly meant to be from the consumer side. You're approaching this exactly the same way. Hey, look, there's this functionality. This sucks. I don't like 10 emails after I get one website visit. I don't like garbage stuff that I have to sort through to get to what I want to get to. Let's create a cleaner relationship with the consumer. That straight line purpose, consumer centric side of things is going to find you people that want to do business with you. You're going to have to probably hit some landmines along the way. To Ed's great, and this is all good advice. All what he's saying is true. All what Robert's saying is true. There's assholes in all of this. Sorry, we get to do this on the show. We can say the same time we want. And brands are going to steer you to their value proposition. They're going to steer you to what they think you can benefit them for, regardless of what you can benefit others for. Your purity of saying, what does the consumer want? I want to be able to go to a place that, I'm paying some coin for, that I don't have to go through BS to get to, that shows me stuff that historically I was interested in, and I can see rates that I can get that match or maybe better given circumstances than what I find elsewhere. That convenience factor alone, even though they could possibly find, like Robert will possibly find the best deal from somewhere else, but it took them, an hour and a half to do it. These people don't want to do that. They want to go to a place they can get a good rate. Clean. You got a purity.
Yeah.
So, if Ed wants to say, it's out of unawareness of some of the nastiness on the other side, so be it. But if you keep that straight line thought, you keep the vultures off your ass about giving you money, but then you have to do it their way, or brands telling you to do it their way because it benefits just them for what they're doing. If you can keep that purity of where you're wanting to go, you'll do a great business model. It'll build somewhere. You're going to find hotels. From my perspective, if you come to me and say, look, you're an independent hotel and you got some strong comp set, we can find another avenue for you because we have a membership. We're bringing X thousands of people to your door. Cool. I'll give you the rate. See what you can do with it for me. And if I don't have to pay much for
we
it,
know they'll give them the rate just by the pure fact that AAA rate still exists. And we all scratch our heads on, like, when's the last time AAA actually drove value to a hotel? So that's the other good news, guys. And this is why you don't need to be obsessed with raising money. Every time you hit a level, you will never fall below that level because nothing ever dies in this industry. So, like, don't feel like it's always growth. It's always growth. Like, build fundamental, high quality value for the parts of the business that you value, and don't sell yourself short, because there are hotels on your platform that, because they're on your platform right now, no matter what you do, they're going to stay on your platform forever, because that's what hotels do. If you serve them really well, they will do you favors. And that is, and this is where I'm going to say, like, understand all the brands, all they care about is, if it's not selling franchises, then it's minimum viable effort to check the box to get more franchises sold. So they don't actually care about customer acquisition. They don't actually care about any of that stuff, except they care about it to the level that it helps them sell more franchises.
Right. Yeah.
And so you have to understand that, because they also don't care about how the hotel operates. They don't care if the hotel owner makes a penny more than the minimum amount that hotel owner needs to make to sell more franchises.
Right.
Yeah.
So understand that it's like a everything for them is a barrier of, they will not spend more effort than the minimum amount of effort it takes to sell more franchises.
You're definitely right. We actually have definitely, got that type of, got that sense from unfortunate situation where also the chain happens to be managing their distribution. So that's why it is a lot of times we get the question all the time from people that aren't in the hotel industry. Oh, well, that's awesome. Why haven't you guys signed up every single hotel on the face of the earth?
Because it's the most broken industry on the face of the earth.
I know. It's hard to explain that to people from an outsider, but it is one of those things where, like, well, there's no risk to hotels. Why wouldn't they sign up? And it's just like, why?
The challenge is, again, at the brand level, if they have to have their distribution people who are overtaxed with a whole bunch of very inefficient processes. Like right now, it's corporate rate loading season, right? And they take months to get all these RFPs and most of the rates don't change very much, all. Right? It's just ridiculous, but everything has to get, because it's all this old 1980s file-based upload type crap where, like, can't you just set a rule? No, they can't set a rule, sort of thing. So that drives them crazy. But here's the problem. They've got this bandwidth. And to add you guys in as additional bandwidth, there's an opportunity cost. And all of a sudden they look at that and go, no. And you can go, but this is going to generate whatever points of, ROI or increase ADR or whatever at this. And they're like, yeah, but for us, that's not our revenue stream. Our revenue stream is we've got 11% of revenues, right? We don't care. They don't really care where they come from, right? Sort of thing, because it's top line. Most of it's top line revenue. They may have some extra incentives off of operating profit and things like that, but generally it's top line revenue, right? So especially if they have to do any IT stuff, you wind up getting graded by what's the ROI for the brand, and all of a sudden it's like, no, you aren't on the list, go away, right? So you're going to have to figure out how to navigate that to get scale versus
So Kevin, were you the tech head that put the programming together? I mean, were you the one that actually hands on keyboard started putting the technology together?
So I'm more on I'm like the in between of a tech versus business aspect type of guy. I'm not the one that actually does the raw coding. We hired other people for that, but I'm the guy that's kind of intermediary saying, this is our vision, go make it type of thing.
Right.
I have business requirements guy.
Yeah, I have basic coding experience, but we wanted to make something extremely quality from day one. So don't put me behind the keyboard.
He's a people
that's
person,
good.
Lauren.
Yeah.
So from a membership perspective, and you don't have to share if you want to, have you thought about like distributing, like doing the old Zuckerberg model? Let's throw it out to the colleges. Let's get everybody signed up. Let's throw some power behind this. Let's get some numbers so that when we walk into doors, we can say we got X followings, Gen whatever. And we can bring them to the table for you because,
Doing that would also allow them to chase the long tail of the inventory market. Go after the backpack inventory. Go after the Motel 6s, the G8s,
ownership groups and stuff like that. I mean, is that part of your roadmap? You don't have to share if it's simply crap.
No. We're more than comfortable sharing. Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. We think that since we charge such a low $5.99 month fee to be super competitive with other subscription programs, we know that the money really starts coming in for us at scale. So we definitely want to, look at other people like Zuckerberg, or for example, MoviePass was another one of those subscription companies.
Careful. I wouldn't mention MoviePass. I wouldn't mention Uber or MoviePass.
Robert spent weeks on end telling us how he was completely screwing MoviePass.
MoviePass went public.
MoviePass is MoviePass is one of those ones where I don't even know if they're still operating.
MoviePass is another one of those recent examples that Silicon Valley has lost its mind and have just proven that they're willing to throw crap tons of money behind even the worst idea and prop it up because they don't care.
No, it's so funny. I mean, you being from the Midwest and growing a company in the Midwest, we've seen that a whole lot because we have to really, really sell and pitch these investors to get them on board for a fraction of what we would go get out west if we had written a basic idea on a napkin. And then we would have raised $50 million. Well, and they would have told you to go.
If you were Ed and did that and had successful exits previously, then you can do that.
Yeah. Right? So from a roadmap perspective, exactly. What is your timeline for some of this stuff? When do you think you're going to start getting to certain critical mass points? And I love your marketing strategy, influencers and engagement, identifying the demographics.
Influencers and social sharing doesn't work, Lauren.
Okay for you. No, if you guys get the chance, go look at Flip2. We're making a joke about this. Sorry. His current model, Flip2.
No one cares what their friend thinks. Come on, Lauren.
Right.
If only Ed had friends, he'd realize this. But
he is. Platform Flip2 is what he is for businesses, and it is totally based on the engagement process of influencers and friends and people and collaboration of information.
Advocates.
Yes. So
timeline. So we're really just the one thing holding us back from launching right now is this last connectivity project. So it's basically the developers connect. And then once that's done, we were really, again, hoping to have about 20 to 25,000 properties so that from day one, we might not have that little niche crazy B&B that you love staying at in Key West, but we'll have mass for you to stay anywhere else with some comfort, with some option. Because that's important for us, because obviously if we're subscription based, we got to assume that anybody that subscribes won't use another OTA. So, we got to have that mass.
Well, initially, they're going to shop the shit out of you. As soon as they give you $5.99, you're going to see all sorts of shopping with no booking because they're testing if they want to give you another $5.99.
$5.99, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're definitely going to go check the difference in prices out. Right. That's for sure, and that's what we definitely want to win them over with saying, here's the rate that we say. We know that every single OTA tells you you're getting the best deal.
So what do you actually? That does beg another question. How are you guys dealing with the content issue? Like, so beyond rates, it's more than rates and inventory. How are you?
Sorry, what was that?
How are you guys dealing with the content issues? So hotels,
all the imaging.
They don't. They don't have good content. So, like, are you guys writing better content for your consumers? Because actually, a lot of people don't realize this, but that's a lot of Expedia and Booking.com's overhead is actually writing better content than the hotels would write about themselves. And it's actually where they have a lot of their consumer loyalty is they do a better job at presenting the hotel than the hotel does.
Right.
That's a great point. So, we pull all the content from the companies like DerbySoft and all that. They have a program called DerbySoft Max that supplies the content for the big chains, and then that they have access to Leonardo, to Ice Portal for the photos and that type of things.
Right.
But for content for the small guys that might not have the best content or even a place.
No, but are you guys going to append that content? Because that content's garbage.
Yeah, we definitely can do that 100%.
You should.
And amend stuff. Yeah, and also what we do is we kind of simplify everything on the user interface type end. So if, for example, the API pulls, all this mumbo jumbo about a policy, we'll kind of take the keywords automatically and make it more of like an image type thing. So, it'll say pet friendly and it'll give a whole policy there. Instead of writing that whole policy, I will just say pet friendly and then have a little picture of, a dog paw. So it's super aesthetic and user friendly without giving you paragraphs for each policy.
I'm going to get a little more granular about the marketing concept we do when you do the rollout. Are you basically doing a broadcast announcement of launch, or are you saying, look, Cincinnati at the time of launch normally travels to, based on demographics that you have signed up or would want to have signed up, to certain destinations. So you're going to create influencer engagement associated with those destinations where you have solid inventory availability, to Ed's point, so that the $5.99 was worth the spend. The next $5.99 will be worth the spend, because they're finding value in the relationship rather than them looking at a place that you don't quite have enough inventory to validate the interest, and you lose memberships because they're picking someplace that you just don't have enough stuff there to really validate their value proposition. Are you tailoring your marketing to being centric like that? Or is it too much to ask to say that you can talk about that?
Yeah, it is. So with this, with the social media tactics that we're taking, and the not even just social media, but just the different marketing strategies as a whole, the company that we're using has insane. Their niche is really this back end technology to look at the social medias, to look at the digital marketing.
You can say
we can target the right people.
We don't.
Yeah, the agency is Vivid Front. They're really good at basically quirky different ways to target the right people. So that way, for example, let's say we just got a whole lot of inventory in California for whatever reason. We could now say, all right, let's instead shift our focus from Ohio and Florida. Let's go do a big campaign focused on individuals only from California, because now they can comfortably book in California and things like that. And we'll also we'll have obviously a lot of data on where our travelers are going. So we'll get that data. Oh, our travelers are traveling to Boston, so we got to maybe get more inventory there if we don't have enough, and different things like that.
Okay.
But for the very, very launch, is a free way to get word of mouth really working well, because we're going to have it as this really cool exclusive thing where you can't go on it unless you have a link, and the only way you can get a link is from someone else. Once you sign up, you get 5 more. If you subscribe, you get 10. If they happen to subscribe, you each get $10, which you can use for bookings and things like that. So hypothetically, if you invite 10 friends, they get on board, you both, or you get $100 and all your friends get 10.
Ah. Well, if there's any pattern of similar things, is the fact that successful businessmen have movie posters or opera posters behind them. So,
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in my friend's.
I am far less cultured than he is. Obviously, he's got Phantom back there. I'm like, look, Iron Man! Yay!
Yeah, so funny. I'm actually at a buddy's house in Tennessee right now. So.
Well, hey, you know what? It matches a little bit what behind Zed for all that. And just as a reminder, I told you the first half hour that we would vote, and we've already blown past an hour. And we appreciate your time on that sense. You're more than welcome to stay. And if you want to keep talking, we're more than welcome to talk. I want to be respectful of your time. That if you have other things you have to run off to do or anything like that,
why are you going to start being respectful now, Lauren?
I don't know. It's a crazy little quirk that just popped up. I'll suppress it soon. But we can keep talking. You can keep joining us. Just to let you know, and I think I mentioned this when we were doing the pre-discussion. Robert did a curated list of things news topics and so forth. I didn't send that over to you, so it would be kind of like shooting in the dark. But we can keep talking.
So basically, you'd be at the same level
Same
of
level we
understanding
do. We
of
just
the
shoot in the
topic
dark.
as the rest
Anyway,
of
we're
us
all
who
good.
don't bother looking at Robert's email.
That's right. Ed can't read, so that's why he doesn't really read the emails. So that's really the fundamental problem.
But I mean, if you'd like to hang around and keep talking, by all means, we'd love to keep having you in the conversation. And we keep talking about what you want to talk about, or we can just slip over to some other topics if you have opinions about them as we go through. You're more than welcome to, or if you have
minutes, but I want to see if you guys have any questions for me before I head out, just about the business, because I know that what we're doing is definitely new and unique. So if you guys have any other questions, whether it be our long-term vision or what exactly I can go back. Obviously, I mentioned the business model in the very early discussion, so just let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to answer.
Well, I don't want to ask you questions that you can't actually answer on something that's going to be out there because it's secret.
Sure. Sure.
I would sure be interested in hearing what the actual big vision is of this, because it's not what you're doing. So at any point you want to chat, I'd be happy to hear what you're working on.
I'd love to
from that perspective.
And the one thing, so obviously we didn't want to mention, I just wanted to bring this up because we didn't mention specifically who our hotel partners were, and that's only because we have NDAs with them. But obviously, if, once we're launched in 2 months, you can go on the platform and see for yourself.
Certainly, completely understand that aspect of it.
Hey,
Robert,
one more quick tip.
Said in the beginning
on the.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, like I said in the beginning, I'll definitely make sure to get you guys the first access code so you can go run through the site. And also, specifically to you, Robert, about how you happen to, be the hacker of subscription programs. So we actually have a thing on our platform for the first few months where if you report a bug, you get $5. So obviously that's only $5, but maybe for you,
he will.
For each bug.
No. He will exploit your problem to way more valuable than $5.
Right.
Exactly. So maybe we have.
You're talking to someone who for 2 years in a group of people exploited a Continental Airlines fairing issue where they could not fare over spokes. They could only fare their flights over hubs. Quite successful. We could fly round trip from Houston to New York with a connection in Raleigh for about, let's say $400 round trip instead of like $1,200 round trip. The best part was if you checked in 2 hours before arrival, they would upgrade you. They would change you to the nonstop flight. It was great. So, yeah. And then because we were frequent flyers, we got upgraded to first class. So that's what we do. It's a hobby.
Well, yeah. So. Hey, maybe for you, if you find something big enough, we'll give you a lifetime membership.
There you go.
Yeah. No. The one
Although,
thing I'd say,
a lifetime of Robert exploiting any weak points of your membership may put you out of business.
Yeah. That's why MoviePass wound up where it did. Yeah. But actually, the one thing on the business travel side, I would really focus on the small business, independent traveler, things like that, because the larger ones, once you get into all the travel management companies and all the duty of care and all that stuff, it gets really rough. And the hoteliers, a lot of them will be looking at that going, wait a second, we're getting, like, their GDS business is all corporate. It's a very high ADR and they don't want to see that eroded either. So, but the small business stuff is fine. They have no good method to reach that, and if you can provide it, that's a plus.
Yeah, our kind of niche there is companies that are between 50 to 500 employees. So small-ish, small to medium size, we say. But yeah, so the research that we've done, it really shows that travelers at businesses want the flexibility to book wherever they want without kind of that corporate oversight. Yeah. But obviously there's that dynamic where the business is going to give them some really cool tools to help balance that.
Yeah, and a lot of it does wind up on duty of care, like with this hurricane bearing down, when you have executives who are traveling there, what you do with them and where you go and how you bail them all out. And you don't want to get into that customer support side at all, right? That's,
Mhm.
I mean, that's why Google doesn't want to go be Booking.com or Expedia, because the margins aren't as good as their advertising stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because all that customer care thing, although they,
That
Booking.com and
pesky being a good contributor to the industry thing. This
yeah,
is one of those
exactly.
times I'd say don't listen to Robert. Customer care matters.
That's huge. It's absolutely huge. But I
Yeah.
don't think you want to get the burden of
You don't
all
want to
of a
have
sudden
to
customer
you don't want
care.
to have to do it. You just want to be able to do it, and people
Yeah.
be like, "Wow, we didn't expect that from you," because you don't have to do this,
Yeah.
but still do it.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. You want absolutely exceed their expectations on customer care. It's just you don't really want to be the folks who have
You
to
don't want to be on the
provide
hook for it. Yeah,
have
You
to
don't want to do
provide
the
all
balls
this
of it.
in policy customer care too.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Then you're really within a rock and a
Yeah.
hard place.
So before we forget,
Yeah, no, exactly.
if you want to find out more about what you're doing, where to go to, when and what time to expect to go into launch, and earmark what it is to do to get to you guys, what do you want to? Where do they need to all go?
Sure. So keep an eye out for anything social media or on Justo. It's Husto. Our site is kind of a fake landing page with nothing actually active right now. And then right when about 2 months hits, the actual site's going to be fully published. So just look out for any hoteliers. You can definitely just reach out to me or Jared. It's just our first name at justo.com. Anyone can reach out. Definitely would love to chat, whether you be a hotel, a frequent traveler that has an idea, or really anybody. I just love having these kind of talks. And obviously I definitely want to keep communication going with insight into the industry that is genuinely priceless for us. I can't learn it in business school. I can't learn it anywhere else. I just have to learn by doing. So I love it.
It's great.
Excellent. Well, you're always more than welcome to come back to the show as time. And then when you get closer, we'd love to have you back. When you're on the threshold of coming in, so we can reacquaint people again and remind them to hook up with that stuff. So when it comes closer to that time, not that you're going to be chaotic at anything, pop on the show at least and retouch and go back through it all again. So I mean that sounds to be a lot of fun. So.
That'd be great. And without giving too many surprises away, I definitely will say that you'll definitely hear our name out there. A lot of places, so we're really excited. A lot of really good stuff's going to be happening soon.
That's great.
Yeah, I also think that the only way that things are going to change.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
Good stuff.
Good talking.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being.
And just so I don't mess anything up, and ruin anything. So
just close your browser.
Close your browser. Don't hit any red buttons.
Yeah, should be cautious. Okay.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Well, that was fun. I mean, either I'm just that old, or boy, were they young.
No, they're young.
They're young. Yeah. Yeah. Which is
That's why
fine.
I had to
That's
ask,
good.
because they look like they're 16. So
Oh, wow. But you know what? If anything's going to change the world, it's going to be somebody coming up with something different. Now, whether it's different enough, whether it's crucial enough, whether it can't be absorbed enough.
Well, and this is the thing. They're in generally the right idea space. Like, their current model is not at all what's going to take them to success, but it's getting them the conversations, and what they do with those conversations, that will take them to success.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and they seem to be going for whatever high net worth individuals or kind of extended friends and family type thing from their local area for funding, which is good. That'll take them a certain degree. The question will really be when they hit that next step to scale, because this kind of model is the kind of stuff that gets destroyed on stage at a lot of investment conference, especially because the VCs go in there and they go, I don't see the margins. I don't see this. You're going to have to spend billions and forget it, as opposed to smart, organic value creation for both sides of the marketplace, right? And then
was it you,
so
Robert? No, Robert, no, Ed. Was it you, Ed, or maybe it was another friend of mine on when he, his company, it might have been John Shepke, I don't know. He says, my biggest challenge out of everything, because he sold his company after, on his terms. Like you do at Easy Yield and so forth. And he says, my hardest point was when the devil first showed up and offered me a big check if I just gave the company away.
Well, actually, so again, let's talk about ignorance here. I used to get 6 to 7 phone calls a day from investment people at Easy Yield. And I say it like that because I literally thought this was like junior people. And then when I ran into the guy who ultimately became my M&A banker and started giving him the names of who these people were, they were the heads of these funds calling me. Yeah. so maybe the mix of ignorance is good. And then also the fact that, quite honestly, I was doing what I was doing because I cared about fixing what I was fixing. I wasn't doing it for the money. Yep. So I always just kind of had this attitude of it's probably not worth a lot because I've not put any thought into making it valuable money-wise. But it's funny, that made it to where I never took any of those people seriously. Like if they'd catch me on the phone, I'd be like, hey, thanks so much. I own the company cash. We're doing great. We're not raising money. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. And I wouldn't listen to them. But then I did find out it was like heads of like major capital groups and heads of like major private equity groups and all of this. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Well, that's, I mean, like my friend, like John Shepard, he started a company called Sim Partners, Strategic Internet Marketing Partners. And I was like his first client and so forth and everything. And then it blew up and got bigger and bigger and bigger. And he had in his mind that he knew he was going to eventually sell the company. He knew that he was building this company, but he wanted it on his terms. And he says everything was fine. And like you said, we're making money. Everything's good. I'm covering payroll. We're progressive. We're growing. Everything's happy until he actually got his first real VC offer. But the terms were not what he wanted. He would be giving way too much away.
They would never be what you want.
Right.
Ever.
But, if you had all built anything that you really care about, they never are what you want. Like, and that's the thing is if you know that you can do it, whatever it is you're setting out to do, and you're already like well down that path, it never makes sense to give large chunks of a company for small amounts of cash relatively. When you ultimately value what you're doing, especially if you enjoy what you're doing. Like I could see had I hated it and like really didn't care and just kind of wanted an aggressive exit strategy. Yeah, I probably would have done that and been like, haha.
Here's an example what we did with Neat, and it wound up being a bad strategy, right? It seemed like the perfect one at the time. Our second largest investor, and again, the CEO had I think 1 or 2 successful exits before, so that was good. So we could attract funding. But our second largest investor was United Airlines New Ventures Group, right? Because we were a supply-centric organization, right? And to get those deals, we kind of thought, you know what? And we had some shares for the supply side, and that's all good. United came in and they had 20% because they brought in real money too, right? They believed in what we were doing until they filed for Chapter 11. And they had 25%. I take that back. They had 25% and we needed them to dilute. Now they had non-dilution rights, which makes all the sense in the world at that first, kind of very, very early stage. But they would not dilute from 25 to 20%, which was a stupid decision, right? It was just flat out, no, post cash, it's accretive to the valuation. This is a no-brainer, but they still would not do it, and that killed it, right? And that right then, and all of a sudden you go, wow, your investment is less. This is not, nobody's getting killed here, but we then sold Descendant, who then changed the business model, right? And that's what killed the company completely, right? So, and that's, it's crazy.
Wait,
so you gotta be really careful.
You're blaming Tim Peter for this?
No, actually, I don't know. Tim was at Leading Hotels of the World then, I believe.
He wasn't at Ascendant yet?
No, I think it was before that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that transaction...
I'm going to just come out and say it doesn't matter. You're blaming Tim Peter.
You're blaming Tim. Tim's not here, so it's Tim's fault.
Well, it wasn't Tammy.
Well, no.
No, it would have worked.
Oh, no. Ascendant Travel Distributions I could name names of the guys who
if it was Tammy, it would have worked.
Yeah, no, they were the same guys who acquired $8 billion worth of technology and companies and sold it 5 years later for 4.5. I mean, unique skill set of destroying value.
Yes.
Well, not to make it sound
fair, that was at a time where you actually didn't need to make money on technology.
Yeah,
that was still like, it's about growth and growth. Well, what better way to grow than to put $8 billion into something?
Oh no, that's it. No, that's basically what they did.
I was around back then. I remember that.
Oh no. Actually, I'll give you one. This was the real eye opener. I had already resigned, but they did an all hands call, all VPs. Second quarter earnings are in, right? For the first half of the year, they're like, okay, we're tracking for 7 billion short of our 20 or million. Sorry, so our 21 million forecast, right? We're 7 million short. So you go, wait a second. That means, because there's no seasonality, you've got 7 million for the first half of the year, and you need to double that in the second half of the year. So what were they doing? Oh, it's going to be a travel freeze. And things like you got that. This is not an expense issue, right?
This is bigger than that.
Right. Okay. So wait. So the end state was they made it. And they all got their bonuses at the end of the year. How did they do it? They spent $100 million acquiring a company out of Australia that was generating $16 million a year in revenue, right? And they somehow, August, September, they managed to backdate the transaction to the beginning of the quarter or whatever through some sort of accrual, deferral, something like. So they got $8 million of profit that they added to the 14. So they didn't organically add a penny to what they had done in the first half of the year, right? But they added the 8 billion or 8 million. Why am I saying billion? The 8 million. They got to 22. And they all got their bonuses, right? And that's how the company worked, because it was generating 2.5 billion in cash flow a year. Wow. And it was like they should have just set a hamper of cash by the door and said, take what you need. That was kind of the business model, right? So yeah, just absolutely. And you go, well, how could that happen? You go, that's how it happened. They just kept buying stuff to meet their numbers to do this, and nobody looked at organic growth or or integrations or anything like that.
Back
right?
to our earlier co-hosts, I think there's two things from the lessons I've learned from my dear friend John was, and we do not to make it simplistic, but we look at like shows like Shark Tank and so forth, and you see these people squirm about needing money to scale and what they have to sacrifice to these guys that have the money to do it. He said,
Mr. Wonderful.
It's not about. He says when the first check came around, that was what he called the devil check. That was it. I mean, he could have enough money for everything he was striving for to do: the kids to college, the house, the car to that. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Life would be great, but he would no longer be in control at that point, basically.
And the VC knows that number because they've done 700 deals like that before.
Then he said the second devil check was when he knew he was on the cusp of being, as you said, that when you get into mid-range and so forth, that sweet spot, that place where you can really make this something other than what it is at that point by scaling it much, and the money's needed to do that. You forget that, not to take out loans and everything, and you know this intimately, is that check would clear all that gateway, that would open all those gates as to, yes, I could get the office-based expansion. Yes, I could get the scale to production. Yes, I could do all this. Yes, and sitting there going, I could be that size. But again, to your point, Robert, the VC knows that's exactly the number that you need. And he went through those ones where he finally had established, he built it himself. He built himself up to that point himself, so that when he did decide to step away from these things in the progression of it, it was on his terms of progressive ownership, not on somebody trying to seal it from underneath of him. This is the way he looked at it. Yeah. And I mean, I learned a lot from his process, because being a dear friend, he would be calling up and telling me about, what's going in his head and so forth, and telling me what the situation he was facing. And I'm like, dude, what's your priority to this? You want to just ring the bell and say you got the money and you're good? Or do you want to ring the bell and say you blew up a company really big, but you had to give it away before you did? Or do you want to keep working on it, And he went through that process, and I give him great rewards, because when he finally decided to sell that incrementality, it was on his terms. He made well beyond what he ever did on the two other ones. So, anyways, we have a little bit of time to hit some topic stuff.
So I have some important non-hospitality topics. Actually, hospitality.
Oh no, here goes What's UCF ranked?
No, I'm talking about a hurricane.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
There's this little thing.
We're off.
Yeah, it's it's interesting because the entire state of Florida's Labor Day is ruined.
Yep.
So you got to think about the economic impact of that. It's kind of the last good weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, but now if you look at the latest Euro and GFS model, This ruins the last good weekend for the Bahamas, the state of Florida, the Georgia coastline, and
Probably
the South
Carolinas.
and North Carolina. Yeah, South and North Carolina coastlines.
Yeah.
That's enough
billions.
of the travel industry that like you're going to have to like take this into consideration when looking at how the industry as a whole is performing.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing. Like it is going to hit and have effect from the Florida Keys up
Both
to
coasts.
potentially DC. Yeah, both coasts of Florida.
Yeah.
Like Food and Wine Festival started this week. Disney opened Star Wars this week. This was the weekend that hoteliers were counting on in Central Florida.
Oh yeah.
Daytona, St. Pete, Clearwater. This is the last good weekend for a while.
And
they can't make it up next week or 2 weeks later if nothing happens.
Well, and they're not going to get to house relief workers. Like it's not the same type of situation.
Yeah.
So like this is going to be a blip, like a real blip in the industry's performance.
I can tell you, that the other markets that we have clients in, it has changed our short-term strategy completely. Texas markets, West Coast markets, Northwest markets.
Yeah. Hey, breaking news, Lauren. HSMAI has canceled all the stuff next week.
You say breaking news like Lauren didn't know that. Lauren is the godfather of HSMAI.
Hey, I got a deal confused. No, I just saw it too. I saw the email pop up with it, and I was wondering
leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Hang on to it, because for me, even no matter what model hits, the breakers are on the water. So
it's why it's called the breakers.
Breakers, exactly.
It's about attendance, and if the airport's closed, if Lauderdale or Miami, and they're going to are closing, a lot of this is people infusing in.
Well, even worse. Here's the thing. Now that this thing's slowing down, this is going to be over Florida and affecting like a good amount of Florida. Yeah, and actually potentially 3 because of the size of the storm.
It's going to be a 1 over you, Ed. It's going to be a 1 over your head.
I know.
Well, you're going to get storm surge. You're going to get storm surge. You're going to get flooding.
We have more than.
And then the backing up of the storm surge and the combination is really bad, right? And it's a new moon, right? Which is
right. Yeah. And you have king tide.
King tide, yeah.
Right. Yep.
And that's not just high tide. That's the mother of all high tides.
That's high tide Harry's.
Yeah. But the thing of it is that Miami flooded last time.
And they didn't even get hit.
Yeah.
Let's not forget. Miami, Brickell flooded.
Yeah.
And it didn't even rain there. Just from the movement of how, if you remember, it sucked all the water out of Tampa Bay.
Right.
And pushed it up to another area. Well, in the Bahamas, it's in the Abacos, it sucked all the water out of that like sheltered area in the Abacos. That's not a little bit of water.
Exactly.
That's like 90 to 300 feet of ocean that just disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, scary.
It's going to be interesting. We're trying to plan for it here, which is a challenge because normally Orlando, it's like no matter which way it comes in, we're fine. But I'll tell you what, the model keeps wobbling, and one wobble in the wrong direction for us, like when it was pointing at Titusville, that was going to be catastrophic to Orlando because Orlando has not been hit with something more powerful than a Cat 2 in like 80 years. So, when we talk about areas that have problems with hurricanes, it's generally the areas that are getting hit for the first time in a really long time with a new level of power. Like Mexico Beach, had that hurricane hit Panama City Beach, it would have been less, like dead on, it would have been less damaging because Panama City Beach had been hit with a powerful hurricane in a recent enough history that when it got rebuilt, it was rebuilt well. If Miami gets hit head on with a powerful hurricane, you can thank Andrew for clearing out everything that, that wouldn't survive. So, when you look at the fact that this was starting to look like just 2 days ago that Orlando was going to get hit with potentially Category 3, that would have been been devastating to Orlando because Orlando has not recent modern history. And remember, 80 years ago, what Orlando was. It was a swamp.
Exactly.
Yes. I-4 was a dirt road. Still
well,
is.
it's still a swamp. They just built a bunch of stuff on it.
It still stands still, and but no,
I-4 is still a dirt road. It's just wider.
Exactly.
But so like when you look at these things, it's frightening to think about. Like Myrtle Beach gets hit all the time with hurricanes. So like a Cat 2 to them, they don't get out of bed. Like they're whatever. But if you hit DC with a Cat 2,
I got it. American Airlines. I will be back.
All right. Good luck with your cancellations. You should be fine.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. If it wobbles south for us and we get on the dirty side of it, we're screwed. And if it goes north as it plans, we're still going to Cat 1 stuff.
The current entry point of it's going to hit Lake Okeechobee. That's like being over the ocean.
Yeah.
Like it's coming aboard and immediately moving to Lake Okeechobee as it's doing its turn.
It could be a second Wilma.
Yeah.
It could cross too, because if that's stalled,
if it does that,
and then all of a sudden Texas is in Louisiana, and everybody else is in some serious kimchi. Then that thing would build right back up again.
So are you ready? Are you stocked up, Lauren? I'm ready.
Oh yeah, we're all good. Generator, portable air conditioner, portable ice maker. I got food that just boil water, add food. Not to mention all the stuff that's already in the freezer. We lightened up our freezer.
Your boat?
Huh?
Where's your boat?
Good. We're going to bumper the hell out of it. I'm going to retie it off and anchor out into the ground. I'm going to take a long anchor and put it into the ground and tie a couple of long spring lines to it.
So that way, when it gets pushed up, it just doesn't go super far.
We're not expecting a real surge on our side, but we're expecting probably 70+ mile an hour gusted winds.
Right.
And given it's going to come from the north and the east, it's going to push my boat into the dock. So I'm going to put big old balloon bumpers on it so it can bounce against it rather than bang into the pilings.
You're better off just sinking the thing for a bit.
No, it's actually, that's what you have insurance for.
How deep is the
channel? It's only right underneath you, water wise, on average is 2.5, 3 foot.
So why don't you just sink it?
Nah, it's fine. It actually really is fine. It's one of these things that if depending upon which way the wind, which we just made from west to north, the bow's pointing into it, and it's going to push it against the dock anyway. The part that I'm most worried about is if we did have a surge and it draws water out, because over here with all the seawalls, we had a huge problem with Irma. It popped so many seawalls.
Collapsing, yeah.
Yeah, from the water drain going out and the seawalls collapsed because of the lack of resistant pressure. But no, I mean, all in that sense, how you guys are doing?
We are, everyone here has been taking it seriously because, I'm a doomsday prepper by nature.
Oh, yeah.
So everyone here, I think I started telling everyone to get ready on Tuesday because I was like, oh, I've seen this path before, Tuesday. And I said, if it misses Puerto Rico, we're screwed. And what did it do?
It missed yeah. It went, and ironically, not between Puerto Rico and on
the outside.
Puerto Rico dodged a bullet on that one, which was really, thank goodness.
Now I'm worried about the Bahamas. If it dips any lower, they're in bad shape.
They're in bad shape anyway. They're going to go right over everything. Freeport, Nassau, everything's going to be right on Cat 4, if not more. This thing's
but the southern part of the storm. So it's not. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a big difference.
If you're going to get hit by it, it's the best place to be hit, which is what we're hoping. Our edge of it is, but if everything about nothing about this thing, I remember, was it 6 days ago now, maybe 7, they were thinking that a couple of the miles had it going through the windwards and dissipating.
Right.
And then worse, it's going to be a tropical depression by the time it hits us. It could even break apart. Well, nobody's been right.
Nope.
And the only part that they have up to the point is Sunday. Because there are 2 high pressures, 1 low.
Well, now it's moved out. They've got it pretty solid. Yeah, until about 8 a.m. Monday now.
And it slows down and it stays over Florida.
And that's the problem is it's a smaller storm that is about to decelerate. And that makes it really hard to predict. And a single wobble changes
everything.
Yeah.
And to your point, and from a hospitality keeping, since we're live on the show anyway, it's like, all of Florida is a complete. Last night when I was walking my dog Edison, the bars on a Thursday night that usually are packed parking lots, dead empty.
Yeah.
Not because now, part of the argument would be, hey, it's a holiday weekend coming up. Yeah, but also
and people have started. that holiday weekend. It's Thursday, like
so it's like, no, this is because people are seriously, because we've had Irma 2 years ago.
Yep.
We know that this
and Irma was frightening.
It scared. If we used to own a home over in Boynton Beach.
Yeah.
If we had that home over there now, we would be driving. We're category 4 hitting, nowhere near it. Sorry, take the house. Bye-bye. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
We'd be driving past you on our way over to the Panhandle or someplace up in the other half of Georgia.
To get hit then. That's the other thing.
We'd wait for
really,
it over there.
These storms are getting so big that evacuation is almost silly, because it's like, it's going to hit the entire state. So where are you going to go? Yeah.
Well, depending.
So I came on to, just because I was curious what the guest speaker was. I actually didn't look at any of Robert's stuff.
The only one that caught my eye was Ambridge going to bed with Interstate.
It's funny. I was talking about that with my director of sales this morning. It's been a long time since Interstate has been involved in a major M&A activity. Because, you remember, that's how Interstate was formed, was all this.
That was their big thing. That was Interstate. Interstate was all about acquisition.
And it was almost endless. It was for 6 years, it was this, and this. Yeah. And then nothing. And Ambridge has gotten really big, really quick too. I look at this and, man, if I was Hilton or Marriott, I'd be worried about this.
It depends on how well they merge. I was going to mention that having dealt with Ambridge as a client and Interstate as a client, and then having worked with being gobbled up by Interstate back in the day when I had a hotel.
That's right. Yeah.
There's so much diversity of management initiatives in those organizations when they're that big, because they've tried to appease so many for so long and so forth, that you get this very political environment. And I would have to say that my concerns are that sometimes that with the size of both of those companies, there's so many working agendas in there. Can they actually get consensus? Who's really going to be the lead? And if so, whose vision is going to get adopted, and how well are they going to be able to push that throughout the merger?
But they had both companies have had a lot of similar agendas as of late.
Yeah.
They've kind of been working on the same problems within their organizations separately, and have they've kind of been on the same path lately.
Yeah, I think that's another thing too with Ambridge and Interstate. I think because of the growth around them from the brands, they've been kind of pushed together into some parallel process, and strength in number. It's going to be interesting because the leadership of Ambridge is pretty strong-minded, and the leadership of Interstate has a vision right now. They've created this vision for themselves, and so I'm really interested to see how that all comes together. It's kind of fun when you see when you have people by name, people by history, their personalities, and you're looking at it going, it's going to be interesting to see them in the same room.
Yeah, you're like, I can't wait till they have to deal with each other.
Can I just be a fly on the wall? I want to hear that conversation between those two people that walk in with their entourages and their missions and their
heck yeah.
In that sense, it's going to be a very interesting combination that comes out of all that. And I think, to your point, it should be a strong one that the brands should pay attention to, because
now they're bigger.
Yeah. And also they have a lot more flexibility, because they're not touting brand. They're touting their service, their control over product, not their product. Yeah, and it gives it gives them almost a Blackstone-like leverage to talk to the brands. Mm-hmm. This is what we're going to do with your branded hotels that we are franchising.
Because they're not going to be your branded hotels if you don't go with this,
right? And we will go over and reconsider what we're going to be doing with those. Mr. Robert, were you successful in your renegotiations, sir?
I'm on hold. I was just going to say, what's the surviving company name? Is it Ambridge?
We'll find out.
It's Inter-AIM.
Inter-AIM or AIM State.
Amber State. It's Amber State.
Okay. Thank you.
Amber State.
I would say, because Ambridge acquired Interstate, I would much rather be on
hopefully
the
they hire
team than
the
Interstate
same.
team.
Hopefully they hire the same branding geniuses that branded Bonvoy.
Oh, yeah, well, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be a great name for it. Something that would be so useful as that.
Yeah.
Boy
Yeah,
thing.
but I've got to think most of these mergers for the acquired things normally don't turn out as well for the acquired company as the acquiring company. So I think the CEO is Aimbridge, the president is Interstate, but I've got to think the next tiers down, there's a lot of overlap, and this is a big
Which is
cost
going to actually, this will be good for the industry because this will give birth to a crap ton of new management companies.
Absolutely. You're right. Yeah. All the operations guys, all the F&B guys, all the marketing guys are all going to be out there.
It's like, because if you look at how a lot of the what are now, kind of the middle of the management company world, they all kind of came from the Meristar and all those different mergers where the executives were cut loose, and those executives went on to start a small, geographically centralized management group that then just turned into massive groups. So it's the circle of life. It's like you cut off the branch, and everything that falls off of it turns into completely new trees.
Yep. No, very true. Hey, going back to the hurricane thing real quick from a hospitality perspective of it, just for those who are and may listen to the show just because they have nothing else to do, the idea of what to do for your hurricane time, I've had some success. A couple of things of caution. One is suspend all of your planned campaigning. Please suspend everything.
Shut it all off.
Shut it all off. All your scheduling stuff. Stop with the promotional aspects of everything. Turn everything off and turn into a communication relationship. Centralize that only one person is in control of your messaging. Just one person, not your marketer, but who would be rating out notifications.
And don't forget that gouging is illegal during times of emergency.
God's sakes, yes, please don't over and try to exploit.
Not only illegal, it's a dick move.
So, it's a total. Yeah. On the other side of it, what I would also go for reparations of opportunity is I would take everybody who's on your books that had to cancel, and depending upon your level of need or not, either give them a free room to come back with, or something that says, we are so sorry that this is happening to spoil your travels. We know it's not our fault, but by the same token, we're committed to your happiness. We'd love to have you back at another time. And
ideally, what you should do is, if they were a 2 or 3 night stay, offer them a free night on their next 4 night night stay, because then you're actually not really giving up anything. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And even if you want to give more, I'd even be recommending
just be a good human being. I will say Orlando hotels have done it incredibly well. And Harris Rosen really was kind of the catalyst of the first hoteliers to do this when hurricanes happen. He goes down to his actual cost to turn a room, which for those of you who don't know, he has no debt on his hotel. So his actual cost to turn a room is in the low 20s for AAA 4 Diamond.
Like $27, I think it was.
Yeah. So, and because of that now, actually, it's funny, as I was talking to a friend, and I'm like, what are you going to do? Are you ready for the storm? He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, we're going to Disney. He's like, they're amazing. They bring in all this extra food. They bring in entertainment. They lower their prices. He's like, yeah, we're going to just go to one of the Disney hotels and hang out there. And that's actually because the hospitality industry did the right thing years ago and continue to do the right thing, which is, this is not the time to take advantage. Because first of all, if you are not pummeled by this, you'll end up housing relief workers, which you will make a pretty penny off of during a very slow season. So take care of your locals, and your locals will then look to you anytime. And we all know hurricanes move. This hurricane may not hit Orlando. That's still in the cards that it may not
hit Florida. There's a 5% chance it doesn't hit the U.S.
Right. Yeah. So, but you know what? You got a bunch of bookings from people who are expecting to be at your property because the hurricane's coming.
I'd even go so far as to say that Rosen did a great model with that too. And having gone through hurricanes and as a hotel GM, one of the first things we did was the restaurant turned free. We literally fed the people that were that were stuck with us. Because there's shelter. That some people don't have the living facilities that are going to survive anything, and we did that. We went over and made a completely local rate. I didn't go as far as Rosen at the time. Rosen was genius when he did that. I didn't think of that at the time. I just had an incredibly like $40, $50 rate kind of thing, and
which is still amazing because this is back when you were Hilton.
Yeah. And
did you have the $75 resort fee? Yes.
Never had resort fees. Never had resort fees.
He had to come in and quip that. He totally had to come in and get that quip in.
So, and then when they came in, and then we did basically soup kitchen mentality restaurant. Everybody got fed breakfast, lunch, and dinner for as long as we had food. And, always tried to get food in and stuff like this. But it was a matter of, hey, look, we're in this together and we understand and we hope that your family stay safe. So please, our building was an approved shelter building. And so we had them come in and you do that stuff. And you are right. Now, all of a sudden, every one of their families that come visit them stayed with us.
Yeah.
Every time we asked the community to participate in something, we were always invited.
Because you became a member of the community.
Right. Our business was seen as a community leader because we participated in
you're
this for the
seen
community.
as a huge benefit to the community because of how you acted when the community really needed you.
Yeah.
So
and there was plenty of times where the community was doing something to promote destination stuff. And they said, hey, can we put you on our thing? I was like, sure. What is the cost? We just want to put you on, Why? Because, and it happened more than one hurricane. We were always the hotel that they knew. I mean, we started having people that were within the government that they was there, and they were the ones that told the relief workers, when you come, this is where you need to go. Yeah. We support each other for that. And then there was other hotels that tried to exploit it and never were invited, never were included, never, if they fought against everything about it. So it pays for itself, not in the dollars that you make during the event. Yeah, it's karma. It's doing the right thing for your fellow human being in your community.
So with that, and I don't want to, ding dong ditch here, but I came to help you out just in case no one showed up to talk to the young people. But I am now going to go move on and make sure my my team and my family are ready for this craziness.
Hey, there's always an invitation. If you have to get somewhere that's better than where you're at, if it happens to be worse than here, you have an invitation to come down.
Same here, my friend. I have an extra house right now, as you know, that.
You end up having to fill it in with dirt, by the way.
But how'd that look?
It didn't work.
But it looks damn good now.
It looks damn good.
And that was done at a fraction of what I thought it was going to cost. So.
Yeah, you were worried about Paul said the same. But yes, by all means, and for anybody to take note of this when it comes to marketing strategy, I'm sure our next show on the 6th, which we do have a guest coming in, Stephanie's coming in, which
Stephanie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to go look up what her actual title is, but revenue management.
A host.
A co-host.
A host of the show that organizes these things would actually tell the other hosts of the show.
I know. I got to go look it up. Me and names.
Details like
who did I butcher last week? Vikram's. I butchered Vikram's name last week, right?
You'll never do it again, though.
Right? I got it burned in my brain now. It takes me that much.
After all the crap I put you through for it, you'll never make that mistake again.
Oh, from Red Lion, Stephanie from Red Lion.
Oh, cool.
So,
I'd be interesting to hear what their post Calvin revenue strategy is, because he had very specific revenue strategy for them.
Yes, he did. I still have them all on paper. His rate tree is still what I consider to be a brilliant model, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Very solid model on building on stuff. So anyways, Mr. Ed, thank you. You and your family safe. You and your team safe.
To you as well. And everyone bear with Flip2. The majority of our account management team is in Orlando, and I'm not going to make them come here during the storm. But if you do need to get in touch with us, team at Flip2, info at Flip2, help at Flip2 goes to the teams that are also in New York City, which are currently not being threatened by a hurricane. So we will get back to you and we will keep an eye, but please bear with us. And if you're in the path of the hurricane, please check your email. We have emailed you about our suggestions on what you should do with Flip2. And we're just waiting for you to give us approval to do that for you.
Surfing contest. Excellent idea.
Absolutely.
Anyways, yes. Mr. Ed, for those who, flip.to, obviously. And
yep.
Yeah, be safe.
You too,
keep
man.
in touch as communication goes, and we'll see you on the other side of all this.
All right, gents.
Thank you.
Enjoy the weekend. Bye. Red button, right? I'm just kidding.
That's the old give Ed something, a button that says do not push. It will get pushed.
Do not push this button. So, Mr. Robert, I know you're busy with American canceling on that.
Well, American, very interestingly, increased the one-way fare because I'm flying out to Phoenix on Tuesday, right, for a meeting. And then on Wednesday, the 4th, I had to fly to West Palm via Charlotte, right, but booked on a separate PNR, right? So I had 3 PNRs. I had Dallas to Phoenix on one, Phoenix to, because I had to change my flight, right? Then Phoenix to West Palm, and then coming back on a reward ticket, right? Because it's, I might as well just use points coming back. It's out of my pocket. So American is being kind enough on the 6th to basically repopulate the points back into my ticket because I'm not going to be in West Palm. But in the 2 hours that I waited, by the time I called, and then they said we will call you back in 2+ hours, they increased the one-way fare from Phoenix to Dallas from $275 to $440. So that stuff you were talking to Ed about, of Rosen doing the really kind of thing, that's not the style of American Airlines.
Not American Airlines.
And if I said, oh, well, then maybe I should cancel completely. And they said, oh, no, if that happens, we charge you the $200 change fee, right? Because they waive the change fee. And so they know perfectly well that now the ticket's worthless. There's a $200 change fee. They've just, basically marked up, an extra $40, right? So they got it.
What are you doing to Phoenix? I'm going to be in Phoenix 2 weeks after that.
I am going to be I think I can say this. I don't think it's really top secret. The J.D. Power results of their North American Consumer Satisfaction Survey to the fine folks at Best Western.
Very nice. Very nice.
Just did Omni last week. Yeah. And got a Hyatt the week after. So, and working our way across the country.
If worst comes to worst, just stay in Charlotte, kill the ticket from Charlotte down to West Palm.
North Carolinas could get hit too.
Well, yeah.
No. I need to come back to. I want to come back to. No, that's what I'm doing now. They're just flying me back to Dallas, and it's got to be 4-4, and it is what it is. So. Anyway.
Well, we didn't get to go through many of your topics. I apologize for those. We'll put those, of course, in the show notes and any of the ones that are still valuable. We're going to have Stephanie with us next week. Nope. Robert had to jump out because American Airlines came back to him.
What? Oh no, they didn't. They didn't come back and confirm anything. They just sent me to the survey.
Uh-oh.
If they disconnected me, I'm going to be pissed.
I would be pissed.
Hang on.
But in continuation of the conversation that I was having with Ed about the hurricane.
I got to leave a voicemail message here. Hang on.
Go ahead. Hit me. I'll keep talking as we wrap up the show. The hurricane is going to affect a lot of tourist business for all of Florida. Subsequently, probably Georgia, at least just in the possibility of it affecting people's decision to go anywhere along the Savannah or anywhere along the Georgia coastline. And it might potentially, based on how far north it goes, at what level of strength it goes, the effect on the Carolinas as well. And at least from the decision process of people as to what they're choosing to do for that effect. So in mind with that, that all hotels should always have a crash kit of what they should be doing in relationship to these. I had mentioned earlier, suspend all of your social and paid campaigns that you're running at this time for the time that you're looking for bookings here, or for the bookings of the impact to you, because they're useless. You're spending and wasting money, and you're creating a mixed message if you're doing social postings about how awesome it would be to come to your hotel during Labor Day, and you're the one that's by ground zero of a hurricane hitting. So make sure that you reach out to, if you're not doing it internally, your third-party agencies, that all those things are stopped and done. I would also recommend that you tell to your third-party agencies and anybody that has their hand on your accounts that they're to do nothing with them, and that you have a designated person on your team that is the voice person, the spokesperson for your hotel as to what does get said, and that you do it in a unified voice at all times. So if you put something on Facebook as a status update of your hotel, that the same message goes onto all platforms at the same time, so that there is no inconsistency of messaging. So if you're saying that, the storm has passed us, things are okay, we're fine, thank you so very much, we'll let you know when we are ready to start accepting guests again or whatever have you, that's a unified message on all platforms. or if any other aspect of it happens, that you turn it into a communication tool. I would also recommend that if you haven't already done this out of the midst of everything you're doing for hurricane preparation, that there is a marketing plan that is a post-event plan. Now, if you're damaged and can't get back into the market sequence again, that's an entirely different perspective. But if you are past the danger and you survived, so to speak, and you are available to go back into the market cycle again, that you progressively express your status first, then go into why it might be valuable or interesting or what have you, as to beyond that. Don't go into happy land conversations like, we're fine, come on back down. We don't have a beach left anymore, but it's okay. It's beautiful. The storm's not here. Don't lie. Don't exaggerate. Don't go off on
give people reality. I mean, if the restaurants have all opened and it missed, there was no damage, but that's fine. You can just say, here's what the thing is, because the worst thing for this is when hotels, they try to profiteer, right? Mm. Or, well, actually, even before that, they don't communicate what the status is, right? So, like the little hotel that I'm staying at, the Palm Beach Historic Inn or whatever, not a huge place, but they proactively, even though it was booked through booking.com, proactively reached out to me by messaging, which they couldn't necessarily tell if I got them or not, or that sort of thing. They followed up with a phone call, and they're going through trying to figure out what are our arrivals, because if this thing hits, you do not want arrivals sort of thing coming in going, hi, I'm ready to stay here. And you go, we don't have a roof. Sort of thing is a bad combination. And you can go, oh, force majeure, it's not our fault. But what can you do to prevent these problems with these guests? So these guys have, they've won me over, because it's like, wow, that's fantastic. I mean, I thank them on the phone for being so proactive and communicative. That's
and to Ed's point, it's history teaches lessons, and for the places that have been hit or have gone through these processes before, they have learned their lesson of what not to do, or hopefully have learned their lesson of what not to do, in the sense of don't tell, silence is golden, let them figure it out. If they show up, we'll still take their money and put them. No.
We'll take their cancellation fees and charge them though we were hit and closed, charge them. They didn't cancel, so take their money. Don't.
Right. Or have arrivals on when nobody left and you have no room for them, and now the person's in a war zone of destruction and no place to stay.
Even before it hits, do you once things still really start coming down? If you're in the cone toward the center of it and you've looked at these models. True, you might get hit, but do you really want to have? And
you got to figure from a reality point of view, there are some hotels that are closing that are kicking the people out. Like when the Keys get threatened, they kick all the tourists out.
Right.
Okay. And now a lot of these hotels that have people in them, if you cancel correctly and get out of it correctly, there are a lot of people that can't get out of the market, or people like responders that have to be in the market. That inventory needs to be available. There are people that after the storm, their house or their abode is damaged beyond habitable, and they need to be someplace. You showing up for your post Labor Day vacation, that room could be possibly better served to somebody that needs it because they don't have a place to live, for goodness sakes. Not that you have to make those choices, but the hotel, when speaking to the hoteliers, you have to make those choices. Do you close your hotel and suspend all arrivals, knowing that you're going to be a valuable asset to inventory locally? Who knows? But those are choices that you have to face. The key element of this is it's going to affect you two things right now, all of these markets. One, all of you're going to have to replan what it's going to take to try to recoup some of the anticipated revenues from this loss for this weekend.
Right.
You're just going to have to re-strategize your fourth quarter and see whether or not there's a way or not, and be honest with, as if there isn't, to recoup some of this value proposition. Two is you ain't working on budgets, and you ain't doing normal operational activity, and you won't be for a couple of weeks. So you got to figure that into your whole process of timelines now, because as we always laugh about, we as an inventory have a budget season. And so you're just whacking out 2 weeks of the middle of the peak of what you would be doing this for, and you're going to have to reevaluate that. Plus, it may change your whole FF&E perspective for next year, depending upon damage and inventory availability, which means revenue opportunities. You have no idea what this is going to do to you. So all that, you might just be throwing a bunch of stacks of paper out the window of what you had planned for budget, because your inventory has changed or your products have changed. And your market may have changed depending upon damage and so forth. because you know that the media is going to pounce on all this, and they're going to look for ground zeros. They're going to look for Mexican beaches. They're going to look at devastation. And they're going to look for ways to show how bad things are. And all that ripples onto you if you're in that market. So these are all things that you're going to have to construct through. And you should have open, if you're dealing with third parties and so forth, after this danger has passed, you have to have some hard conversations. Where are we? What's our condition? What's our value proposition? What are our opportunities? And evaluate them to inventory changes and everything else. It's a game changer. It's just not a weather storm that passes over and we dust ourselves off, get back up, and go back to biz. This is not that thing. Hurricanes are never that thing. So,
well, no, and some of the hotels will decide, oh, we'll just use force majeure, business interruption insurance, whatever it may be, to try to get by on that too. So, there are huge ramifications of your staff. Are they employed or no? We've laid everybody off and things like that. Nobody's getting paid. You can do a lot of short-term things that can really wind up damaging the property and your operation, things like that take maybe harder to recover from than the storm damage.
Now, keep in mind, I know we're speaking about this based on a hurricane, based on hitting Florida, based on going to Georgia and South Carolina and all the rest of us, but it could be an earthquake. It can be a firestorm. Right. It could be a lot of things. The emergency planning
Lauren,
process.
This week you are predicting, you heard it here, breaking news. Lauren Gray is predicting hurricane, earthquake, and firestorm impacting all of those.
Yeah.
Lauren angling to replace Jim Cantori. Right hoping to replace Jim Cantori when he retires be out there.
Well, look at this. Look at Las Vegas. They had to go through the whole grasshopper season. I mean, that made an impact. Now, granted, who cares about grasshoppers outside when you're inside gambling? But everything affected.
I worked with someone who had an insane fear of grasshoppers. Oof. I mean, just crazy fear. And you're like, it's a little bug and it's not dangerous. It's not going to bite. Freaked out. Same thing you see with someone with a really, really, really severe clown fear. Same sort of reaction. Yeah, not good.
Well, to everyone that is in the path of this, whether they know they're in the path or not, because the cone of uncertainty, where it's going to land. But all of our Florida friends, all of our Georgia, Carolina friends, and everyone else is going to be impacted by that. We hope all of you and your teams, your families are safe. They stay safe. And that you weather the storm literally well. And that we'll probably make this centric to our conversation in the weeks coming ahead. Like I said, we have a guest speaker next Friday, technology working, which I believe it should be. Where I'm located, I believe, hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't be suffering the worst of the damage potential, but you never know. This stuff is an unknown entity. 7 days ago, they were predicting it was going to fizzle out and turn into a tropical wave. And now it is a category 4, potentially higher.
And here's my recommendation. Do not look at the Weather Channel. Do not look at CNN or Fox News or any of the cable news guys. Go to wonderground.com/Cat6. It's the Category 6 blog by Dr. Jeff Masters, who's the founder of Weather Underground. It is the best source for tropical storm information.
Mike's Maps is also good. Mike's Maps is good too.
Yeah, that's true. Mike's Maps is good, but this one I think they publish twice a day, and it's dead on.
No hype,
right?
All tech.
What?
It's no
right.
No hype,
not a lot of emotion. I mean, they will say this is a dangerous storm. Yeah. Get out and things like that.
It's not hyped like they're
Oh no, and they go through the. Basically they published their thing this morning, and they have the track forecast and everything. And there's a 5% chance it completely misses the U.S. There's a 20% chance it'll miss landfall in Central Florida. Right now, that means there's 75% chance it will. But you start going through all these.
To give you a real out to this, when I was running a Hilton in Melbourne, and I think it was Hurricane Jean, or I forget which one it was. Anyway, Jim Cantori was with us, literally, and so we were looking at the TV.
Because he wasn't going to stay. He's smart enough not to stay on the beach.
Right. So we're watching Jim Cantori on the TV, and the wind's blowing him as he's talking, and we look out the window outside. It's like, where's he at? Because it's kind of sunny. And
he's
it's
at the
not
corner of a building. Yeah.
No, but he was between our two buildings, which has a bit of a wind tunnel effect.
Yeah.
So that he looked like he was in the bad weather kind of thing. And we've seen it with the one guy, that one weatherman who's holding on like it's blowing and the person's walking by with their dog. You know, this is their job, is to, they do a service by getting us prepared and warned, but they also do us a disservice by getting us unfairly stressed and hyped.
No, the best one was the woman in the canoe, and the people walked by in probably ankle deep water. It's like, how is the canoe even floating? Right.
All right. Well, we've taken this to its limit. And again, thank you to Jason.
So I was off for a little while. You covered one news story. Excellent job, guys. Good.
We did. Ambridge and IHG.
And you didn't do the rut-row, but that's okay. That's fine.
Right, let's do the quick rut-row. Go do the rut-row.
The rut-row was kind of a legitimate rut-row. It wasn't. We've had some pretty dark ones the last couple of weeks. So lightened it up a little bit. This is just a pure business one. Tourism was up. So why is New York City's hotel room revenue slumping? Which I think said a very good question, because they're basically, that New York City, really kind of bucked recent RevPAR trends. So they were up 3.5% versus 2.9% for the U.S., but this year, not really. So New York room revenues for the first half of 2019 fell 3.8%, projected to finish down around 2.1% for the year's worst output by the hotel sector since 2015, according to recent data. So RevPAR for all U.S. hotels is expected to grow 1.6%. They're down 2.1%. So that's a 3.7 point swing. That's a lot of basis points. So, but they're also going to draw a record 67 million visitors this year, right? So that you're like, wait a second, we've got people here. What's going on? So they have an interview with the folks at Vornado with the Crowne Plaza, Times Square, and Hotel Pennsylvania. They're talking about what's going on there.
Yeah,
I think you know those guys. So.
I know those guys exceptionally well. And the fun part of it is Hotel Pennsylvania, being a previous client and so forth, our other clients we have in Midtown, we don't do the Hensel Hotel Pennsylvania anymore. Our RevPAR has actually been up almost 4.7% over the year.
Well, there you go. That's good. Well, especially if the city's down 1.6. Well done. Congratulations. So
I'm smiling. That's going, that's a shame.
Yeah. So, but anyway, they take note of the short-term rental issue, which basically, which I've been saying for years. The problem isn't that everybody wants to stay that instead of a hotel. It's when you get these compression nights when you're really busy. All of a sudden, you can't go, jack your rates to the ceiling. It just doesn't happen, right? Because people have added enough inventory where, dynamically, and that's a big concern. So anyway, they talk about the new Six Senses and a new Lyric property and things like that. And when's it going to improve? I don't know. There's a lot of development still, so we'll have to see. And actually, they did make a very interesting point that with the new defense by Airbnb is they're falling basically behind the Communications Decency Act, and that's the one that says, hey, you can't sue the platform for the content that's on it. They are just, they're just technology. They aren't the content providers, right? Which I would think with Airbnb, that is a real stretch, right? But I guess that's now the new defense. So they can just, again, string things out to the point where people can run these illegal hotels without.
Their strongest suit to play on that part is that there are some inventory that's in market that is by law not allowed to be sublet.
Right. Oh, yeah. By certainly apartment rent control places, things like that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Those you can't touch those. Shop because those should not ever be allowed to be sublet.
You have co-ops that people try to do it in, and heaven forbid, you've got to fight the co-op board. That never ends well for those people running those apartments. The condo guys, it's a little bit.
But here's the thing to beat. And this is where we're beating it every day. And if anybody's listening to the show this late into it, then here's your golden nugget for the day. You look at your booking window in market for it, in down to midtown. We use AirDNA as your base platform for it, and it'll tell you exactly the lead time for that market for it. And you know if it's going to be a compression time based on event cycles. You have historicals for that, so you already know that too. Look at your high resistance of rules and regulations for cancellations. They always go up during peak demand times because Airbnb inventory people want to lock in the fact it's going to cost somebody to step out if they find something better. Now, this usually happens 47, 98, 81 days ahead of time, whatever it is. You go and you offer a great, acceptable rate that you know is going to be solid for that time of year for you, pre-purchased and locked in, and also one that is more expensive, but one that can get out of with the best rate guarantee to it. Okay? Best rate guarantee to it, because you know you're only going to go up from it anyway. At the time that people are first looking at Airbnb. So that when the compression comes in and the inventory comes into market with the dynamic inventory, elasticity of demand inventory, okay, it's going to come in high rated with high restrictions onto it as for lack of cancellation. You already have bought your market share before that ever happened.
Right.
And it doesn't affect you. You're good. So Hotel Pennsylvania, do the same thing we were doing for you before. Do that.
there you go.
You know? Oh, anyways.
Yeah. So an interesting thing, though, actually just to tail on, because they had another some Calibri stats on about loyalty contribution continues to rise across the U.S. hotel bookings. I kind of wanted to tee up that one and then do the rut-row because they're kind of in conflict again. Yeah. So this basically
we should touch it back. We're going to talk about revenue management next week anyway, so maybe we can bring back some of the ones that we didn't get.
No, we have no inventory carryover of these news items. The news continues, Lauren.
Maybe we'll just bring up the topic.
Actually, it was interesting though. They said that occupancy declines of for the first 6 months of the year, occupancy declines of 1.9% year over year, right? And I'm kind of looking at that going, wait a second, that doesn't jibe with the stats that I see year over year, because if I'm looking at occupancy percentage, hang on.
Wait a minute, are you saying you disagree with Cindy SD Screen?
I don't know. My numbers
are you contesting?
Different. I show year to date as the U.S. hotel industry. Now, mine isn't exact because I'm doing weekly numbers and I don't have it weighted for supply growth and things like that. But I have it down 0.1%. Right? That's a big swing to 1.9%. That's a 1.8% difference. That's a lot. And then only modest ADR growth. The ADR growth is 0.3% ADR growth, right?
Technically 2%, so, right? 1.9 and plus 0.1.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah. So, but then ADR growth, they said was 0.3%, and I'm showing 1.3% growth. Right. So you kind of look at it and go, the portfolio of hotels, which are the major brands, appear to be grossly underperforming on a RevPAR basis, at least in terms of year over year growth, versus the market as a whole. I don't know. But that's certainly not good. And then the really interesting one, as I said, and the headline was loyalty contribution continues to rise across U.S. hotel bookings. It was, okay, room nights booked by loyalty members increased 4.4% year over year. So that's definitely larger than the occupancy, things like that's fine. To 53.9%. Again, these are major hotel brands, right? I believe. But the interesting thing is that they said, when looking at bookings by source of business, brand.com and OTA bookings continued their dueling track meet, each with 6.6% year-to-date growth overall. So the question is, brand.com versus the OTA. I think brand.com's normally smaller than the OTA, right? Generally speaking. Right? So that means 6.6% growth. The OTAs in real room nights are growing faster than the brand.com. And there's a gap between this brand.com growth of 6.6% and room nights booked by brand loyalty members of only 4.4%. So it's like, are you not onboarding these guys? Are they not? I don't know. All these numbers don't give me a lot of comfort that the major brands are doing that great. And then again, the assessment is, while it's encouraging to see guest paid ADR hold steady, again, it's flat versus the industry going up 1.8, or even show modest growth in some chain scales, there's some concern or trepidation of RevPAR figures based on declining occupancy and very modest ADR growth in most markets. Well, yeah, there certainly should be. That's bad, especially when the rest of the industry is not exhibiting that. So I don't know. It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, so there's some interesting dynamics. The major New York is having issues. The major hotel groups appear to be having issues, and we'll see. I mean, I'm just worried the next, whatever triggers a downturn, whatever that catalyst is, and plus this hurricane certainly isn't going to help the overall industry whatsoever at all by wiping out the weekend. So,
I think it's going to turn into one of Veronica's from Smith Travel Research Star, that she showed what happened when Hurricane Henry hit Texas, the ripple effect of the progression. She had this wonderful visual graphic of how other markets blew up from this and the depression of it, and how they went to other places and so forth. So I think
this one won't happen, right? I mean, there may be devastation with aid workers and things like that, but the problem is this was a peak weekend, right? And that stuff is just down, gone, not coming back, right? And so, that's a huge hole to fill versus, again, as Ed was saying, the aid workers or whatever hitting, surrounding community. And certainly those aid workers at the breakers, let's say, heaven forbid, it hit West Palm and the breakers, those aid workers are not going to be paying $400 a night, sort of thing. So,
and those aren't the hotels that usually get first pull on the come in and stuff like that anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not going to allocate. They tend to be the ones, depending upon their damage, of course,
that don't allocate to those. Yeah,
right. They don't give inventory to them unless, of course, I mean, obviously citywide if they really needed to and so forth. But again, the devastation point, the damaging point of this is the recovery of it from a physicality point of view, but also the gun shyness that it creates, because then, even if people had the opportunity to then come to Florida afterwards, depending upon the physical damagings and so forth, the hesitancy that it creates, knowing that, and here we have another storm coming in 5 days, people had to change their plans from it's fine to catastrophic. So I guess, there's another storm that's brewing behind it or something like this. People might just come and say, you know what? Yeah, not Florida until after all this. We're just not going to do.
Or next year. I mean, I think it would be very interesting to see for HSMA. Well, actually, I think last year, didn't they have it in Chicago? Did they have it in Chicago?
What, for what?
I think the Marketing Advisory Board meeting might have been in Chicago last year.
No, you did the Marketing Advisory Board in Chicago, I thought.
Yeah, I think last year was Chicago.
But
I am no longer on it as of this would have been my last one, but I've been sent off, so that's fine. Holly and Dan couldn't save me or anything, so fine.
Well, there was 60 people on the board.
There's still a lot. They've added a lot of They've added a whole ton of people too, but anyway. But I was on it for 2 or 3 years or whatever. I don't know what the term was. So maybe I was even on it longer than I was supposed to be. I'm not sure. So.
I was on it for 13.
Well, so it goes.
I kept trying to find places of value that they would let me play. So I guess, I didn't pursue to get back though. I once I got off it, I kind of like doing what I'm doing now with them instead, and get off of the merry-go-round of the board because it's too big.
Yeah.
And it's by consensus, and Dan's going to have his hands full. I mean, Holly was herding cats for the past 2 years, so it's Dan's turn to try to hand. And I think Dan's doing really well. He's in Bangkok right now. He's over with Isaac. Yeah, I think his business is catching on. So good for him. Good for him.
My daughter's headed to Thailand next January on vacation, but not staying at Isaac's hotels.
Why not?
Why not? Because she has a really cool itinerary plan through wendyperrin.com, who is now her go-to. If you want great vacations, you go to Wendy. And she's staying at very, very cool places in Bangkok and Chiang Mai, and an elephant camp, a legit elephant camp where they aren't like having people ride them, where they're really rescuing them and restoring them, things like that. Nice. So they're doing that, and then hitting Krabi. Krabi? Yeah, Krabi Beach near Phuket.
Oh,
So, yeah.
the famous beach. Yeah.
Yeah, the one with the big stone islands.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a great time.
Blue Lagoon, or I forget what movie with De Niro, not De Niro, but DiCaprio was made there or something. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. So,
all right. So, well, Mr. Robert, thank you. I'm sorry we didn't get to all the curated list of it, but it will be in the show notes.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm sad I'm not going to see you next week. I was looking forward to that, to be honest.
It's not. Yeah, I was planning on meeting with Stuart. Stuart was going to be there as well, so we were going to have a little meeting. But anyway, so it goes. So anyway.
Well, for those who want to know more about you and Rock Cheetah, where is it that they need to go to, sir?
You can go to rockcheetah.com or find me at Robert K. Cole on social media.
And for those who want this very long show today and more about us, it's at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Look for the link to show number 212. Again, thank you to our two special co-hosts, Jared and Kevin from...
Oh, I thought you were going to say me and Ed. Oh.
Well, I was getting there. From Justo. Good luck with their venture. I know that we all look at it from being in the saddle for a long time.
Not easy. They have the right. They have the right idea. I think they have a good approach, but it's not going to be easy if they really work at it, and they are really going to have to work at it.
True to themselves and don't go for the early money. There's hope.
Yeah, no, I think they'll be able to do that. The big thing will be at that mid-scale, whereas you always get these companies where you go from running a company with like 5 employees, a lot different. The next stage is once you get in that 10 to 20 range, different things have to happen, right? And then you kind of hit the 50 range, and that's on employees, right? And then at 100, all these things wind up having to get more formalized.
90 to 100 is a dangerous one because that's when you're getting the attention of your competitors. They're either going to crush you,
right?
Or you now have serious competition, or you have somebody that wants to really seriously buy you.
Yeah, you've got your burn rate. Your burn rate is up. So if things
then you
don't develop the way you want, you wind up you have issues.
And from a management perspective, when you start hitting 40 or 50 staffers, you start losing that individual engagement as an owner of the of the company to your staff, because there's just you can spend all day talking to your staff or letting your staff run the business, and you rely on others.
Look at Ed. Ed can't name another name of a staffer on Flip2, I don't think. He was just referring to him as the people in Orlando and the people in New York. He doesn't know. He's up in his ivory tower. Just that happens with these guys.
It is. And Stuart, I mean, I don't think he even knows the name of his staffers. I mean,
Stuart doesn't know his own name. Little known fact.
There it is.
You call Stuart. You call Stuart. He doesn't respond. Cocker Spaniels do better. Yes.
Where's Stuart even from? South Africa, New Zealand? Where? I mean,
I don't know. I believe it was some sort of some sort of British penal colony. I believe. Yeah. Not sure which one. Some sort of
Holly, the land of perpetual colds or something. She'll chat round, but she won't get on the show.
I'm concerned about Holly's health. Yes, yeah. She's in Phoenix. You shouldn't have a cold in
Phoenix in the summer.
Certainly, no allergen can survive in that heat.
Right,
sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. You can't have any sort of congestion. It's going to evaporate even within your head, sort of thing, because of the heat and the low humidity. I don't know.
Where's Tim again? What is Tim? What was his excuse this time?
Well, Tim is probably at some black ops site somewhere overseas doing whatever he does. So, I don't know.
You know what? We should just start asking if Tammy can jump on the show. At least then we'd get intelligent, comprehensive, insightful dialogue.
Tammy would not come on the show for exactly those reasons. She would be saying, I would want to do those things. And on this show, that is not possible.
But she'd crushed Ed like a tin can. She'd put Stuart, set him down and line him up and tell Holly to get her butt on the show. She'd clean up the whole place. She'd clean up the whole place.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't have its rustic charm.
All right. Well, Mr. Robert, thank you as always. Thank everyone for watching us. If you're still watching us now, thank you for that duration as well.
Apologize for dragging it on an extra 20 minutes because I was on with American Airlines, who, I may add, told me it was going to be, instead of my 172 flight, it was going to be 440. Well, they disconnected me before doing it. I don't think they processed my credit card. So either that or they just gave up. It's still 172. They changed my flight, but they didn't change the billing on the ticketing, which for the people who are familiar with airline ticketing are completely separate transactions, right? The ticket has nothing to do with the reservation. So I may have done okay on this.
You may have done okay.
Or at least for my friends at JD, for the accountants at JD Power, I may have done them a big.
And this goes to show you that
favor.
he is worried about cost. But all right, with that in mind, everyone, thank you so very much. We will see you next week for show 13, technology and weather permitting. And Mr. Roberts, just so you know, you're in the bat seat when it comes to, if I am having issues about being able to be there, I will be having to turn the reins over to you and to give you direct access into Webinar Jam so that you can make sure the show stays alive. You've said that before, but you've never actually relinquished the. Well, because I'm worried about you, going in and saying, "Well, what's what's that red button do?" Yeah, yeah, but I should go make sure that you have direct. Yeah, we'll talk about that on the sidebar. But anyway, for everyone else, thank you so very much. We will see you next week, willing. Yeah, because I don't think we were going to do the show that following Friday. I was in the marketing advisory board meeting. I wasn't going to be. Stuart wasn't going to be here again. I was. I mean, I was going to be here, so we were good. So but we'll see. Okay. All right. With that, thank you all. We'll talk to you next week. All right.